I had no money, I had no equipment. I'd sold most of the equipment to try and pay the bills. So yeah, it was a pretty dark place, and I remember standing on a bridge at one point on the way home from the pub thinking, I'm better off not being here. I think I was quite a scared kid, terrified of school, could not think of anything worse, and hated school. No, you've got life, unfortunately, and no one gears you up for how shit it is and how hard it is. You've been in this educational bubble for so long, you come out the other end, and then you've got bosses shouting at you, you've got to work hard and you can't pay the mortgage, and car breaks down and you've got to put it on a credit card and you can't afford to pay the credit card, and then you have your heart broken. All of a sudden it's all quite a lot, isn't it? And that's just the very beginning of it all, and all I want is you to be happy. I don't care if it makes you a lot of money. I don't care if you're skint, as long as you're happy, because life is too short to be miserable. Don't have regrets, try everything, mess it up, and keep going forward, because you can't go backwards, you can't change anything. So learn from whatever has happened and go forward and be happy. I think life's too short, and I think losing people earlier on in my life really highlighted that. Like, they were chasing dreams and they were chasing drugs and everything else, and it all went wrong, and now they're not here anymore. And life's hard, and there's been young people who I've witnessed and have taken their own life, to people who have been in their late 40s. I think society has a lot to answer for all that. All the pressure we put on people to perform, to have these things, because that's success. And we spoke earlier about the levels of success. Just be bloody happy. Find something that makes you happy. Hopefully give people a bit of hope that you don't have to chase money, chase happiness, and money will come with that. Because if you're happy, then you're doing right things and maybe helping people, then money will come after that. And I'm starting to see that now. So that was the beginning of the end, unfortunately, for the Naked Gardener, because the work started cancelling. I had to get rid of the lads, sold the digger, sold most of the trailers, and it went back just me and the dog. And then eventually went bankrupt. And I hear this a lot on different podcasts, and it's normally from billionaires, and they're selling you some course or something. And I'm not a billionaire, I'm still skint. But bloody I'm happy. I love it.
I'm on a mission to help the world to see success differently. Through sharing the stories of our guests, I hope to inspire those that listen. This is the Different Hats podcast, produced by H2 Productions. I hope you can join us on this journey. I just wanted to take a moment to talk about one of our sponsors, Nostos, an authentic experience of Greece right here in the heart of Hove. In a world brimming with dining options, finding that one place that captivates your palate and heart isn't always easy. It's about more than food. It's the stories, the ambience, the slice of another world. This is the essence of Nostos, an award-winning Greek restaurant. With traditional recipes passed down through generations, each dish promises a story and a piece of heritage. And Nostos is more than just a restaurant, it's a community contributor. Each dining experience supports initiatives close to their heart, from local charities to cultural events, enriching Brighton and Hove's social fabric. They also provide catering services, bringing Greek cuisine to your personal events. For a taste of Greece without leaving town, visit nostos-hove.co.uk. And when you do go, say Sam recommended the feta nests. Oh my God, they are amazing. Okay, welcome to another episode of the podcast. My guest today is the founder of the Full Circle Farms and the Garden Army. He's an inspirational TEDx speaker who recently shared his inspirational story on the TEDx Brighton stage. I'm delighted to welcome Farmer Tom to the podcast.
How you doing? All right.
Mate, listen, great to have you here, mate. Great to have you.
Thanks for the intro.
Mate, listen, it was so good. We sort of spoke briefly offline about, obviously, your TEDx talk earlier this year, and how I think it just resonated with so many people because it was so real, it was so authentic, hit home with a lot of people, and I think it absolutely smashed it out of the park. So it was great, and it was
Thanks,
great
man,
to obviously meet you for the first time then.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
Stuff, so
yeah, I mean, that was since doing the TEDx, I mean, people have been asking me to do a TED talk for years. When I worked up in London, and I built a farm around a hotel up there, and I started doing tours of the farm, telling people a bit about my story, about literally what we were doing on the farm there and things, and it became very popular. We had like 40 people twice a day I'd take round, And every time they say, "Oh, you should be on TV, or you should do a TED talk, you should do the," and I thought, at the time, I didn't think. I mean, I didn't quite think I had enough to talk about. But then, as you get older, I'm 41 now, and you think, well, actually, maybe I have got enough to talk about now, and maybe I'm at that age where I've got enough knowledge that people want to listen to, and since starting the Garden Army and talking to more people, you realise that actually maybe I do know more than I think, and I can pass that knowledge on a bit. So yeah, it was a great experience doing the TED talk, and you know, like all these things I get myself wrapped up. I didn't quite realise how big these things are. Same as some of the clients I've taken. I didn't quite realise how big they were, and meeting all the other lovely, interesting people. One thing I've always tried to do is really make it real.
Yeah.
There's always a bit of holisticness to it, but I'm not one of those people who go hugging trees and skipping around woods and finding myself and stuff. I just, I talk to it in a real way.
Yeah.
And people take that how they want. They go, oh, it's because you're grounded, it's because this, and it's like, well, just whatever it is, it is.
Yeah.
And I go along with it, and I try and highlight the fuck ups that happen in all of this as well, because none of this happens without some massive mistakes along the way, and that's important. And now I know that it's important. At the time, that's completely crippling, but but you look back and go, if that hadn't happened, maybe I wouldn't be talking the way I am now and knowing the things I know now and meeting the people I've met along the way as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's so much of that, isn't there? Like, I love the saying that this too shall pass. So when you're in the shit, and you're
this
like,
too shall pass.
God, you like you said, it's crippling sometimes, and you're lying awake at night and you're fighting fires, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, whatever them things look like, or whatever the issue is that you've got going on.
Yeah.
But actually, it does pass, doesn't it? And then, and even the same with the good times, right? When things are going really well,
they do pass,
and they do. You go
sometimes quicker than the other ones, but
exactly. No, I wish this could stay around.
That'd be nice to hang around a little bit longer. Yeah, definitely.
But no, you're right, and like you said, I think it was so real, and I love the fact that because we obviously done the behind the scenes document. I love the fact of talking to you before, and how many people would, they rehearsed and prepped, and you was very much like, oh, mate, it's my story, I'm just going to go and give it a go, and to get up, and that's what come across. Like I said, you just got up and absolutely nailed it. It was so refreshing, and then sitting with you afterwards, that went all right, didn't it?
Trying not to get too ahead of myself there, and not to get too big-headed, but I think it went all right. The feedback since has been very good, and yeah, I mean, it was just nice to have the opportunity. And I have a few mottos in my life, and one of them is "fuck 'em." I don't care what people think. I'm just going to crack on and do it. What's the worst going to happen? You know what I mean? And I could get up there and freeze. Oh well, I'm still going to be able to pay the mortgage. I'm still going to see my wife and kids and everything else, so it don't really matter. It's not life and death, is it? Yeah.
Love that. Well, look, mate. Listen, as always, I want to go right back to the beginning. Right, tell me something about life growing up for you. Tell me something about that and how that's sort of shaped who sort of sits in front of me today.
Yeah, I think I was quite a scared kid, terrified of school. Could not think of anything worse, and hated school from the primary school all the way through to secondary school. Hated it.
Didn't like it at all. What was it?
It was I think my first memory of it is when my mum said, starting school soon. No more play school. Play school was just playing. It was great, and I had a couple of little mates there, and we just made cars and tried to throw them out the window and all sorts. And I had this memory of my mum sitting me on her knee and saying, September in 2 weeks' time you're going to start school, and I think she called it big school. So even that was just scary. Like, big school, so I can't play all day in the garden. I can't hang around the woods. So for some reason now, all of the fun stuff I like doing has got to stop. And I've got to go to this big building where the people are going to make me do things I'm not that interested in. It was just, the whole idea just seemed really shit to me. And I really didn't want to get involved with it, and I hated it. And I remember going to school and being dyslexic, struggled with everything like mad. Couldn't understand, couldn't keep. I remember just sitting in a class and trying to stay concentrated to this teacher who was telling us information about God knows what. And the memories from first class in primary school, I kind of remember a little bit of that because I still had my mate there from play school and things, and and we just carried on making cars and sandpits, and then it gradually gets more and more serious, and you have to start learning about maths and English and writing your name more in your address, and that all seemed like a bit boring to me and a bit of hard work. And then got to top infants, and then that's when the kind of the bullying side of things started, because then all the boys are getting older and girls and things, and you know, I was just a gang. I mean, I was always tall, 6'4", and I was always tall then. I think my dad described me as a golf club, a massive feet, and I was just a beanpole of a kid, and this massive hair on top of national health class. I mean, I would have bullied myself, to be honest, if I had gone back in time. But you know, I had massive silly hair, national health glasses, huge feet. Always struggled to find shoes that fitted, and I just, you know, I was just stuck it like a sore thumb. There's no hiding. And of course, all the other kind of kids then started taking the piss and things. And I remember one kid, Peter Mackey, his name was giving me a hard time, and they were throwing dust in my face for some reason, and I just lost it one day. And I grabbed hold of him, swung around, and threw him across the playground. He went sliding along on his back, and his t-shirt come up, and it grazed all his back and things. And I thought, shit, I'm in for it now. And Mum got called in. Mrs. Skinner was the teacher. She's a horrible old woman, and called me in and started reading my mum the right act. And my mum, I've never seen my mum do it ever before, and she just went, hang on a minute, and she just absolutely ripped into this teacher and tore her a new one. And I just kind of sat back like, God, this has escalated. They kind of marched me out, and she's like, don't worry, you've done the right thing. I was like, okay, so I've got away with this somehow, and those kids never touched me again, and that teacher never gave me a hard time again. But school never got any better. It just got harder and harder for me, and then got into top infants, and I just didn't get it. I just didn't understand it. I just remember always just sitting even when it was raining in the winter, I'd sit at the window looking outside, and I'd rather be out in the rain trying to build a camp or trying to dam a river or climb a tree than be in this room. It was just utterly miserable for me.
Do you think so much of that was to do with your dyslexia, or to do with the bullying, or a combination of both?
I think a lot of it is being dyslexic. Obviously now things have moved on a lot more. I know that being dyslexic is my kind of secret weapon. But then the help for a young lad being dyslexic, we had a teacher called Mrs. Burr who used to go to her classroom and things, but even then, I mean, just the fact she would come in, I'd keep my head down in class and try to get quiet, so I didn't want her to come in and go, Tom, it's time for you to come to your special class. And, oh, God, fucking hell, that was just ammunition for more bullying. And went to that class, and she did help me, and it helped me a lot, but I still found it all a massive struggle. These days, it's identified a lot earlier on. All the kids kind of in the class have been told about it, and bullying's not tolerated as much, and kids are made aware that everyone's different and everyone has different levels. I mean, my little boy Fred, he's dyslexic, which kind of terrified me to start with, but actually my wife's a primary school teacher, so you know, she said it's a lot different now, and it is a lot different now, and he gets a lot of support, and it's not that he doesn't get bullied for that, so it's a lot different now. But I just think I was an outdoor farm kid when I was a wild child and just needed to be out in the wild. I couldn't fathom to me, and I still can't really now, how anyone gets joy from being in that situation. I just hated it.
It's mad, isn't it? It's so fascinating to me, because I talk. One of the things I talk about on here a lot is the education system, and how because I wasn't great at school.
Yeah.
I done okay. But I wasn't. I didn't. I loved playing football, I loved sport and stuff, and that got me through a lot. And I was okay. I done all right in GCSEs and stuff. But I just it's so for me. It's such an archaic way of teaching.
It hasn't changed.
And it hasn't. This is the problem.
There is no sign of it changing either.
No. And it's got to change. Because surely, and especially with, it's highlighted more neurodiversity, as you mentioned, so whether dyslexia, autism, or whatever it is, but people, it is highlighted. So understanding, actually, people learn in different ways. Yeah. And we've created a system where you've got to learn in one way. If you don't, then you're labelled as...
You haven't achieved. Yeah.
And
it's mad. We highlight all... So a lot... These days, we're incredibly good at putting labels and everything, saying you're autistic, you're neurodiverse, you're dyslexic, you've got ADHD. So we can quickly identify all these things and go, right, well, that's got all that. So let's carry on teaching the way we try. Well, what was the point? Might as well just gone on whatever and carried on, because that's all basic you've done. I mean, there was a bit more support, but the basics of it is sit in a room, have information given to you for an hour, and then the hope that you remember all those hour sessions and you pass the test at the end of it. Well, what's that achieved? It's mental.
It's so, and it's so, like, and there's nothing else really in life afterwards when you get out into the world where that is a process.
Yeah.
Where do you have to sit in and listen to something and then go, I'm going to go and do a test at the end of it, and whatever job that is, it's very unlikely that that's going to be the case. Right?
Yeah. And the likelihood is that, we do a lot of this on the farm with school kids, that you're promised, and the promises are even more now because of social media and everything else. It's like you do well at primary school, and it gives you a good head start into big school, secondary school, and then you do well there, and you get some GCSEs, and that means that you've done really well. Like all that time in that big school wasn't wasted because you've got your GCSEs, and if you get good GCSEs, you can go to college. You can learn loads of cool stuff, and college is really cool, you can call the teachers by their name and all this kind of stuff. And then if you do well there and you get a couple of A-levels, you can go to university. And if you work really hard at university, you come out with these amazing degrees and things, and you get a great job, and you'll have this great Instagram life that you've always wanted, and you'll have good... The reality is you come out, and they rock up at my farm, and they go, I've got anxiety. Like, okay. I mean, some people do have anxiety, generally do, and they panic about everything, and it's all a big deal for them. A lot of them have got anxiety. It's been slapped with a label like, no, you've got life, unfortunately, and no one geared you up for how shit it is and how hard it is. You've been in this educational bubble for so long. You come out the other end, and then you've got bosses shouting at you. You've got to work hard, and you can't pay the mortgage, and car breaks down, and you've got to put it on a credit card, and you can't afford to pay the credit card, and then you have your heart broken. All of a sudden, it's all quite a lot, isn't it? And that's just the very beginning of it all. And so, quick slap, you've got anxiety. Have some pills. It's not going to fix the actual problem, what has got you to that point. So I think gearing people up for life is way more. I mean, the government is starting to chat about it now, and they're going to apparently do a lot more apprentices and all this, apprenticeships and things. Life is bloody hard, and we don't teach kids that is hard. And the reality of it is, you come out of university and you'll go and start a job at 25 grand a year, and you'll try your hardest to work your way up that ladder to get to good money. I mean, I know people who've qualified as doctors and things, which is great. I mean, if you are going to go to university, come out with a proper qualification, leads you straight into a job. You manage to go into being a doctor, and it's bloody hard work, and they've got to pay $3 grand a year or $2 grand a year for redoing their tests and licenses and all the insurances. And people go, doctors get paid loads of money. Yeah, they do get paid well, but bloody right, because it's, we're all relying on them at some point, and it's such hard work. And so it's mad that I think we don't highlight the professions, the grafters, the builders, the deep drainage gangs, the ground workers, the tilers, the painters, decorators. They're all these people that, if I had to do it all again, I'd go back to doing garden maintenance or property maintenance, and I'd just go and work in London, because no one in London has a clue how to put a shelf up. It's mental. And I worked up there, I just saw these cowboys everywhere just bodging fences up, and I saw someone building an extension. I thought, Christ, my little boy could do better than that. It was just bodged up because no one knows any different. The skilled tradesmen, they're disappearing. The chippies I know, the farmers I know, the welders and things, they're all just disappearing slowly and retiring, giving up. And there's no young person coming in behind and going, well, I can weld that up for you, I can build that, I can throw that up, I can decorate that. They're just disappearing, because no one's going into the trades.
It's because, like you said, because we've got this one system that teaches you that to go here, like exactly how you described it, and you can go to university. My kids, unless they want to, like my wife, we went to school together, so at 11, she wanted to be a solicitor. Yeah. She's a solicitor now. She had that drive and determination. She wanted, and to become a solicitor, she had to go and get a degree. Yeah. So I'll get that.
Yeah.
So if my kids come to me and go, Dad, look, I want to do this, doctor, solicitor, something that needs a degree to get there, no problem. I'll help you. I'll support you through that. They come to, I'm really sure what I want to do. Absolutely
an art
not.
degree, a sociology degree. Okay, well, where's that going with it? What are you going to do with it?
Exactly.
You've got to have a plan what to do with it, because otherwise you come out and go, my apprentice has got a degree in textiles. The most textiles she does now is pulling some insect nets over a crop. Like, she's a really clever girl.
Yeah.
But she got all the way through, and I don't really want to do it. So, okay, you got a degree, but you could have saved yourself a load of money and saved your parents a load of money and come in straight to this, and you could be running your own little farm by now, or do it. But then maybe that's what you need to find out through university as part of it. I don't know.
Mate, but I do think, like, even with apprenticeships or with travelling or something, just for me, there's one thing I've learned, especially from doing this. There's one thing I've learned in life and from business and everything I've done is find something that you love, right? Find something that lights you up.
Yeah.
Forget the other stuff, but like, whatever it is, you'll find a way. Wherever that is, you'll find a way to make money from that. And it might be that you know, let's take football for example. I want to be a professional footballer. It's going to be a tough thing to get, right? Not mine. Yeah. But you love sport, and do something. You could do something within sport.
You something you have a drive and passion for.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what's the point?
Oh, mate, 100%.
So many people are just plod on like. They've got an all right job, pays their bills. Some of them got very good jobs, and pays loads of bills. But I hate it. Yeah. And I think maybe it's because I've had lots of people in my life who have taken their own lives and things and died and whatever. And you just think, God, life really is too short to be in a job. And you wake up in the morning and go, oh, I've got work. I never wake up and go, oh, I've got to go to work. I wake up and go, God, what am I going to do today?
But that's what comes across from you, I think, that passion. Like you can tell when you got up and spoke on that stage, when I had them couple of interactions with you before and after, just follow you online and you it just oozes out of you, right? Yeah. You can tell that passion, that smile on your face that you've got. Don't mean that it's not fucking hard work a lot of the time, I'm sure.
It's enjoyable hard work.
Yeah. And I think one thing for me, I just my twins, I've got twins, they're 9. I just drive into them, just like just be happy.
I think that's what any parent. Well, that's what you obviously want from your. It's what me and my wife. Freddie says, Dad, do you want me to be a farmer? I don't care what you are, Freddie. And Stan says, Dad, Stan's they're completely different, both of them. Fred's always thinking and very thoughtful, and he's like, Dad, I think I want to be a farmer. I said, well, I want to be a farmer? Well, then he thinks about it a bit more. He's like, oh no, I want to be a professional rugby player. If that doesn't work out, I'll be a farmer. If that doesn't work out, I can't remember what his third one was. And Stan just, I don't know, he just said, oh, whatever, Dad, do whatever. And I think the two mixed together quite well.
How old are they?
7 and 9.
Wow.
So they're growing up fast. And he said, Dad, what do you want me to do? It doesn't matter what I want. Yeah. All I want is you to be happy. I don't care if it makes you a lot of money. I don't care if you're skinny, as long as you're happy. Because life is too short to be miserable. Yeah. Don't have regrets. Try everything. Yeah. Mess it up. And keep going forward. Because you can't go backwards. You can't change anything. Yeah. So learn from whatever has happened and go forward and be happy. Whatever you do, be bloody happy.
Mate, what a brilliant, not just for our kids, but people listening, right?
Just be happy.
That's it, the end.
If you're in it, you're done. That's your life lesson, yeah. If you're in a job and you hate getting up and going to that job and you get there and it's miserable and Susan on your desk winds you up and Dave keeps fighting, I don't know, whatever it is, or you just think this is a dead-end job and what you really love to do would be to help people or make a difference, just go and do it. And I hear this a lot on different podcasts, and it's normally from billionaires and they're selling you some course or something. And I'm not a billionaire, I'm still skint. But bloody hell, I'm happy. I love it. And I wouldn't change it. And I've tried the other way. I've tried to go into a career which will eventually pay me 60, 70 grand a year and I can have a nice car and, whatever. Oh, God, it was miserable. And it was depressing and I hated it. And I nearly lost the love for the one thing I did like, which was plants and nature, because I was still in horticulture and working in central London doing public realm landscapes and things, and the gardens and things I helped build and oversee. I was a project manager. They've all won loads of awards, and I couldn't give a shit. I hated it right from the beginning right to the end. I hated every minute of it. I met some interesting people, but that was not where I ever wanted. I got to that point, I was like, this is not what I wanted to be doing in horticulture, and I jacked it all in and went back to what I really had a passion for. And my wife kind of said, "It's all right for you, you love work." Oh, yeah, but there was many times where I didn't love work, and I just jacked it in. I think life's too short, and I think losing people earlier on in my life really highlighted that. Like, they were chasing dreams and they were chasing drugs and everything else, and it all went wrong, and then now they're not here anymore. but they were
Can you
amazing.
share some of it?
Yeah, I
what
mean,
happened with it?
my first mate who took her own life, a girl called Mitty, and I met her through the local pub. I used to go to the local pub. It wasn't actually that local to me, it was a drive. Or sometimes I went down there on the longboard, the long drive. And I sit in the pub, and that's where I got to meet a lot of people who've helped me in life. And she was working behind the bar for a short time, and then she stopped working behind the bar, and she used to come and join us for a drink. Beautiful young woman, really nice girl, really down to earth. But had private school education. It's a slightly different world from her, but we kind of met in the middle, and she was really cool, and I kind of got on with her. I ended up working for her parents. I was doing garden maintenance, and they had quite a big house and gardens and things. And at one point in my life, I used to deal a lot with horses. I trained to be a farrier when I left school, and turns out being 6'4" is the wrong size to be a farrier. But I used to exercise people's horses and things. They're all bloody mad. So yeah, kind of had a glimpse of the horsey world. So I could look after horses, and she used to ride cross country for England. She was an incredibly good horse rider. Parents, I don't know what they did for a living, but obviously made enough money. So I used to do their gardening. So I used to go and mow their lawns and do different projects for them. And then when they went away, I'd look after the horses, and I'd muck them out and tack them up, and she would go for a ride. And so I got to know her a bit more because I was at a house at the time. So at the end of the day, we'd sit and have a cup of tea and a chat and things. And she was a party girl, and doing a lot of party drugs and having a crazy life, and it all seemed very exciting from the outside. Not that I've ever taken any drugs, but she seemed to have a lovely time. And then it started changing, and I think she had a kind of turbulent relationship with a boyfriend or something, and I saw the change in her. So I started talking to her a bit more, and she used to confide in me quite a lot about the boyfriend or how she was feeling and things, and she started self-harming and getting really depressed. And so I had a chat with her mum and saying, is Mitty all right? She said, she's just a silly girl, just trying to get attention and things. And I don't know, she seemed really fed up. So she'd be all right. And she had therapy and all sorts. And it got worse and worse and worse. And one day she came out, and I had the horses out, and they were tied up. She said, Tom, could you help me tack up? I can't remember the horse's name, whacking great thing. So I tacked it up, saddle on and all sorts, and she'd come out, fully jumpered up, t-shirt on, helmet on, and ready to go. And I hadn't seen her dressed up, ready to ride for ages. She'd kind of lost that passion for it. So I brought the horse round, and she just vaulted up onto this horse, and didn't wait for me to open the gate. I walked towards the gate to open it. She jumped it, and she's gone. And she tore off up the road, up the driveway, and she hadn't said much to me at all. And I was okay, a bit worrying. So I hung around till about, I think parents went out. She came back about 6-7 o'clock. Horse was covered in sweat. I mean, the horse was absolutely knackered. Wow. And she jumped off, just handed me a helmet. So I hosed the horse down and got all the kit off, and she just kind of stood there just looking into the distance, and I had a bit of a chat. And I was like, "You all right?" She's like, "She's had enough." I was like, "Okay, we'll have a chat." And we just sat in silence for it seemed like a long time, and I had my arm around her and chatted to her. She didn't talk much. It was very quiet, quite withdrawn. I couldn't get much out of her. She went in, I went off home, came in on the Monday or whatever. Mum answered the door in tears. I was like, "Okay, everything all right?" She's like, "She's done it." I was like, "What do you mean? Who's done what?" She's like, she's killed herself. I was like, "Oh fuck!" And she'd taken herself that night. She'd taken herself to Beachy Head and thrown herself off the Beachy Head. And she was 20. I think she was 20. I don't think she was 21. Beautiful young woman. All, wealthy family, great at what she was, her passion, but it just got mixed up and she was gone like that. And then I thought, shit.
How old was you at that time?
I think I was probably 19, coming up to 20. I went to a funeral, loads of people there, all supposedly people who loved her and cared for her. But she didn't see any of that. She felt so alone, and she felt that was the only option for her. And you think, oh, Christ, what a waste. And it is a complete waste. So that kind of stayed with me. It was a bit upsetting. But we move on, and then the next person tops himself, and then you meet someone else, and you think, Christ, within a period of like 10 years, 5 people have taken their own life. And you think, right, well, I want to try and fix this. I'm no expert, I'm not a psychologist, but you kind of get to tell when people who talk about taking their own life, I don't tend to worry about so much because it's just talk, lots of talk, and all the time they're talking, it's fine. It seems to me that when they go quiet and don't want to talk anymore, it's when they're really given up, and that's when it's worrying, and then you find out they've gone. So I wanted to see if I could help them, and I was not smart enough to go to university and do a psychology degree, and I'm not sure I want to do that. I approach it in the same way I do everything in real life, and life's hard. And there's been young people who I've witnessed and have taken their own life, to people who have been in their late 40s who haven't got a wife, haven't got the kids, haven't managed to get a mortgage, still living with parents, or go in and out with living with parents and maybe working with their dad and things. And society says at that age you should have a house, you should have kids, you should have all these things. And if it doesn't happen, and you become withdrawn and a bit embarrassed about that, then it's really hard for you to meet a boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. Then, because maybe they're expecting that, and then you're embarrassed of that, and then they just give up and they're gone. And the fellow who went, he was really amazing bloke, lovely, caring fellow, good at his job. He's a builder with his dad, really good. Gone, another one gone. So you think, I think society has a lot to answer for all that. All the pressure we put on people to perform, to have these things, because that's success. And we spoke earlier about the levels of success. Just be bloody happy. Find something that makes you happy. If that's someone, if it's something, if it's some job, find that, because it's massively important. Forget about the money. Money will come when you're happy. I developed the job I have now because I'm a terrible employee to start with, which I realised. I've been self-employed since I was 18. I did try being an employee for a bit, and I'm terrible at it. But all these things I've found along the way, from young people committing suicide, people just being sad. I don't want people to be sad. Working in jobs for Tesco, seeing the amount of food waste being thrown out, and the amount of sad people working in this sad environment trying to achieve something. To working in London and meeting kids who don't know where the food comes from. When you tell them where an egg comes from, it's a massive shock to them. It's all these kind of things. Christ, there's all these gaps in all of this. From people just being sad and lonely, to people who don't know where the food comes from, to food we're throwing away, to families who can't afford decent food to feed their kids, to give them a bit of a head start. If you feed people crap, they're going to feel crap. So I just thought, this all links to farming. Being outside makes you feel all right. That's naturally where we're from. Growing decent food, that's good for you. Making it affordable for people, that's cool, because then people have access to decent food. And just trying to kind of break all these stigmatisms and things, and just hopefully give people a bit of hope that you don't have to chase money, chase happiness, and money will come with that. Because if you're happy, then you're doing right things and maybe helping people, then money will come after that. And I'm starting to see that now.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to say something about one of our sponsors, Riverval. The world of cars, vans and minibuses is often a pain point for many of us. The hassle of finding the right vehicle, let alone looking after it, are all more things to add to our lists as busy people. Riverval's mission is to make motoring manageable, and that's why they provide leasing, purchasing, servicing and vehicle management. So whether you have one family car or a fleet of vans for your business, Riverval are your trusted vehicle supplier. Visit www.riverval.co.uk. Okay, let's jump back to the podcast. Mate, thank you for sharing. Look, I'll be honest with you. Like I said, one of the reasons, I guess, for me, wanting to get you on the podcast is everything you've just described almost epitomises what the message of the podcast is about, right? Helping the world to see success differently. What does that mean? We live in a society. My mission is to change this now, because we live in a society where, and social media's got a lot to answer for on that side of it as well. Like you mentioned, that there's something in society that says we should at these milestones hit these things. If we don't, then we look around, and because of social media, all our friends, all them do it, so we compare, and then, like you said, then you go, well, I'm not quite there yet. Why haven't I got a pension, or I've not done this, and what about the future? And actually, just live where you are now, in the moment. Enjoy those moments. Look, we can't preach, especially when you've got responsibilities like kids. We can't go, I've got to live every day like it's my last. Can't do. We've got to be. There's got to be. I think the message has got to be some form of realism, real life, as you mentioned. There's got to be that realism. But at the same time, if everything you do every day, you get up with a smile. I woke up today. I'm grateful for that. I'm breathing and I'm healthy. And I look around and I've got.
Happens as you get past 40.
Just about. I struggle to get up a little bit, but I'm getting up. So that's one thing. But you look around and you go, I am surrounded by people I love and who love me. Win. Okay, I'm grateful for that. And then the happiness side of it that will comes, and it's when we're comparing. We're not there. I've got to keep going to get there, and then you put yourself under more pressure, and that is where, like you said, this is a whole cycle thing, isn't it? That just keeps coming back and back to why people are struggling. Why the biggest killer in men under 45 is suicide. Every time I hear that statistic, 84 men a week die of suicide. Every time I hear it, it just blows my mind. I just think, how can that be? And then I look at conversations like this with people like you who are open and honest and talk about things that you've experienced. And I've had people want to talk about their own mental health and how they've struggled with that. And I mean, where you are, like all the things you've been through at a young age, seeing that and how that's impacted you. Have you over the last 20 odd years, have you struggled yourself or?
Yeah. I mean, I think when I was younger, so I started I think I started my first business when I was probably 12. I was doing a mowing around the local village and things.
Because you got into farming at that young age, didn't you?
Well, yeah, it's horticulture. I got into first, gardening, because when I was, how old was I? I was probably 10, 11. I was working with my dad every weekend as a bricklayer. And I was young and strong and already bigger than my dad, who's tiny. And I was go labouring, knocking up pugs, stacking out bricks, help carry RSJs up and all sorts of things. You can never get away with it these days. But I was grafting bloody hard every day, and even rolling up backer for the old man was, so he didn't have to stop and roll up a bit of a fag. I'd roll up for him and then get back on the disc cutter. I mean, a disc cutter had trained as chopping up blocks and things. It's just the way it was. I never thought anything different of it. And so from a real early age, grafting, working, was what you needed to do. Dad was grafted, and he's paying for it now, but from the age of 14 he was a bricklayer, and most of his life he worked 7 days a week. And looking back now, I think, Christ, I mean, they took us to Spain. I remember 2 or 3 holidays they took us to Spain. And back then, even now it's expensive. I mean, there's 3 kids they were taking. To go abroad and take 3 kids. I mean, we weren't wealthy at all. I mean, I spent most of my childhood poaching because I couldn't afford to put meat in the fridge and the freezer. So off we went. So it was hard graft, and my dad and my mum are really old school. So Dad would work hard, come home, sit, paper, dinner, and then a cup of tea and shower, bed. That's what it was. He's never used a cash machine in his life. He doesn't know how to write a cheque. Mum dealt with all that, and Mum's dyslexic, so she struggled with that a bit. So there's this weird kind of mix, and as I've got older, I stood back and realised that, Christ, how the hell do we get this far? And and a lot of my childhood revolved around alcohol. Not me personally, but my dad still is a bit of an alcoholic, so is my mum, really. That every holiday we went on, they were nice holidays, but there was always a long period where we would have to go and find a pub. We'd sit in the middle of sunny Spain and we were in this dark, dingy pub because we had to go and get a pint. So, that looking back on it now, it was a problem. At the time, it was life. And we kind of go through it all, and I worked with my dad and things, and he said, don't go into this trade. It's crap. You're too tall. You'll break your back. There's no money in it. Find yourself a proper job. Okay. Well, I quite enjoyed doing this, but maybe this isn't the proper job. And at the time, I was working for being young and fit. Local farmers in the village would give me a call and say, Tom, can you come and give us a hand with lambing, calving, chucking hay bales up? And so I just went between my dad and different farmers, and all the farmers were saying, doing well, and they'd give me a few quid. And into some holidays, I was loaded. It was great. I was only a kid that went back to school with a full suspension mountain bike, fully bought and paid for, and an amazing tan, and incredibly bloody strong. But all the farmers also said, no, don't go into farm. This is a crap job. Look at me. Never earned any money. I thought, every job I'm have an interest in it. Everyone's telling me don't go into it. And I respected their opinion. They were older, they were wiser. And I knew that from a very early age to listen to your elders because they've been there, done it. And what was I going to do then? I thought, well, maybe gardening. I was doing that anyway, in between. Well, I started a gardening job, a good business. So I did an apprenticeship for 3 years. So worked hard, and I was driving a massive van and things and cutting hedges, and I grafted. So I'd graft all day. I'd ride down to the yard, which is probably 15, 20 minute ride on my bike in all weathers and all time of year. Start at 7, work through till 5ish, get back at the yard, unloading things, finish at 7, go home, and then go and do my own gardening round in the summer till it didn't get dark till 9:30, 10 o'clock. And then as I got older, it knocked that gardening job on the head a bit, and we went out on the piss. So we'd be out in the local village getting drunk, stagger back in at 3 in the morning, get up at 7 and go back to work. And Christ, even the thought of doing it now gives me a headache. There's no way I could do that now. But young and you could do that. So, and then I thought, I would set myself my goals. So I was going to finish my apprenticeship and then ask for more money. No, can't afford it. And then the boss went and took on some other lad and paid him more than me. And I was like, well, that didn't seem fair. So I raised it with him. I was like, you said you couldn't afford to pay me any more, but you're paying him more, and he's only just come in. It's like, oh yeah, but he's got qualifications for chainsaws. I'm like, we don't do any chainsaw work. So what point is that? And so I thought that was really unfair, and that was the start of me, at any point in any job. As soon as I thought it was unfair or unjust, jack it in. Wasn't enjoying it, jacked it in, off I went. And I went off and I started my own business. I was the naked gardener.
How old was you then?
I was 18.
Wow.
So sitting at home, and I knew I could graft. The realisation that I was really hard working, and I could work all day long, and I could outwork most of the older people I was working with sometimes. So well, I can do this by myself then. So clubbed together some old crappy bits of equipment and things, and I got a job on an estate. They were advertising for a gardener. I went there, a bloke called Joe Campbell, and he used to make music for Channel 4 and all sorts. So he had a lovely, massive house over in Scaines Hill. So I went there and I looked after the estate. I was a chauffeur, gardener and handyman, so I did all this work, and I was only 18. But I think I looked a lot older because I remember he gave me the keys to the Bentley one day, and he's like, do you know where Pax Hill Golf Course is? I yeah, I know that. So I used to do some shooting and poaching there many years ago as well. And he said, well, I'm going to play golf. Can you drop me off there and pick me up later? Yeah, cool. Jumped in this amazing car, drove him there, drove it back, carried on my job, and then he'd give us a ring, so pick us up, Tom. And that went on for 6-7 months. I think about 6 months. And I used to jump in the Bentley, the BMW, and I'd pick his daughter to Brighton, pick his daughter up from and all sorts. So I was running around doing all these things, and then started riding his Harley Davidson. So his massive collection of these amazing bikes. And I think he must have noticed that I had a bit of a passion for bikes. And he said, "Oh, you can ride a bike?" So yeah, off road. And he's like, "Okay." So he was always swap chaining around, and so he said, there's a bloke coming to pick up a couple of bikes, they're swapping them, and there's a certain point in the down the driveway, it was level, and the bottom of this van used to go down to level ground, so it was a perfect place to park it. He said, well, when he comes, can you just take that bike, and that bike, get them all shined up, take them down, and then swap them over and bring them. So I got to ride these Harleys all the time. It's brilliant.
Wow.
And one day I was picking him up from the golf course, and we were coming back in the Bentley. He's like, Tommy, can I put your foot down a bit? I was like, mate, this is a 140 grand motor. I was like, we are cruising. This is a cruising car. This is not a sports car. He's like, oh, fair enough. And I don't know how we got on the subject, but he questioned my age. He was like, how old are you, Tom? I was like, I think I just turned 19. I was like, 19 now? I went, shit, you're 19? I was like, yeah, how old do you think I was? I thought you were 25. He said, you haven't been insured on the car for the last 6 months or any of the vehicles because I've got you. It's over 25 policy. I was like, no, I'm 19, mate. It's like, how have you done all what you know, everything you know at your age? And he was amazed by it. And we got chatting. Never drove the car again. But he also gave me a Land Rover to drive around and so he had to change all the insurance eventually. And eventually, that stopped and he sold up and he moved to Brighton or something and brought a big townhouse down here. And So that stopped. So then I started doing jobs for old ladies and things, and that was great. And that's where I kind of learnt about the loneliness side of things. Old ladies didn't really want me to do the garden. They wanted the regular, every Wednesday I'd be there for a chat. I could do the garden in 15, 20 minutes, but they liked having a chat for 15, 20 minutes and a cup of tea, and sometimes I'd make cake and we'd have a chat, because sometimes I was the only person they'd see for a week. So that kind of stayed with me. So the gardening rounds got bigger, vans got bigger. Couldn't fit everything in the Fiesta van, so I got a bigger van, and things were going all right. And I had quite good money and buying more tools and equipment, and then eventually the tools and equipment got nicked. But another friend of mine I met in the same pub where I met Mitty, a bloke called Tim Best. He rang me one day, and I was always taking machinery for him to fix it for me. I turned up one day, and he had all this kit laying outside. It was all quite newish kit and decent stuff. And he was like, "There you are." I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "That's all yours." I was like, "I can't afford the new kit, Tim. Thanks very much." Now, skin I can't afford. He said, "No, I've given it to you, and you pay me £15 a month for it." He said, "You cannot keep trying to use the kit you've got. It's rubbish." They said, "You're busy enough now. Just pay me £15 a month or a week, or whatever it was." And that got me started. I had decent kit. Also, I could do better jobs, and I was more efficient. And I paid him, and I paid for it all. Then it all got nicked. But I had insurance by then, and the insurance paid out, and I got all even better kit, so I got brand new stuff. But I was doing jobs to the old ladies, and I built a doorstep, and so we can throw a few bricks around, laid a few slabs, and that turned into a patio. Patios turned into roads turned into driveways, and and civil engineering basically, and bespoke tree houses, and I just said yes to everything, and that's still the philosophy I have now. Just say yes to it and figure out how to do it later, and I just said yes to everything. So at 19, I had 2 blokes working for me, a couple of vans, a truck. I think at the age of 20, I brought my first digger, and then we were just doing these amazing landscaping jobs because I had a massive passion for it, and no one really. If people found out my age later on, they'd take me on and do these big projects, and then realise I was only 19, 20 years old, and like, how have you managed to do all this? And because I was weathered, I looked a lot older than I was.
You've been grafting.
And just kept grafting, kept doing these amazing jobs, meeting interesting people, and a couple of people. The first big landscaping job, I can't remember how I got onto it, but I went and met the client, really nice bloke, priced up for the job. Halfway through the job, they said, "Oh, Tom, we need to have a chat." I said, "Oh, shit." Normally, if people want to have a chat, they just flash back to school, like, you've done something wrong, you're going to get a bollocking. So, crap. So I said, "Lads, crack on, carry on, and do what we've got to do." And I hired a 30-ton digger and a 9-ton dumper. Never driven a machine that big. I managed to hire them. Again, they didn't ask my age. And remember the digger turned up, and the bloke said, "Are you Tom?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Could you come to the end of the lane?" He said, "Because I can't fit the lorry down the lane with the digger on." I was like, "Okay." The other lads were like, "Tom, how big is this digger?" I was like, "Yeah, lads, I've got a really big digger." It was all quite excited. I was like, I think Welly, his name was, "I need you to drive the dumper." He's like, "Okay, how big is it?" I was like, 9 ton. He's like, "I've never driven one of those." Like, it's the same thing, just forwards, backwards, just don't hit anything because it will flatten it. So we went down to the road, and this digger was on the back of this lorry, and it's absolutely huge. I was like, shit. And they said, "You're right getting off?" And I was like, yeah, so I'll get off the back of a low loader. I got it off. Got the dumper off the back as well. Lorry disappeared, and signed the paperwork, and my mate was like, "Do you know how to drive that?" I was like, "Well, just about to find out how I can figure out." And it barely fitted down the lane. Got to the other end. There was a big double garage we were demolishing to get in, so I flattened that with one swipe of the digger bucket. So I jumped out of the digger, went to see the client, wanted this chat. And they said, "Look, we're really happy with what you're doing, Tom." I was like, "Okay, phew, I was going to get told off." I said, "Well, you're really happy with what you're doing you're doing an amazing job." I said, "But we're concerned about the price." I was like, "Crap." I'd put all my money into this, and I was struggling to pay the lads each week. And they sat me down, and the wife was there, and she's a very serious woman. And she said, you don't really know what I do for a living, do you?" I was like, "No, it's not my concern. Whatever you're doing very well." Lovely big house and things, and beautiful kids, and a Jag on the driveway. She says, "I'm the CEO of the world's biggest accounting firm." I was like, "Okay." And she's like, I've had a look through your quote and things, and you're not charging us enough. I was like, oh. So I wasn't expecting that. She's like, this is what I think you should be charging us. And she slid across a bit, and it was triple what I was charging. I was like, oh, okay. I said, well, the quote's a quote. That's on me. She said, no. I said, it's not on you. He said, we're going to sit here and we're going to go through your materials and your labour costs, and I'm going to demonstrate to you where you should be and what you should be doing. That was my first introduction into proper business. He said there should be a 40% margin on this. I said, my idea was if I charged you what I get materials for, you could afford more materials, and then you need me to do more work and make the money on the labour. So no, you've got to make profit here, you've got to make profit here, and you've got to make profit here. What are you paying the lads? This should be 20% on that, or 40% on that. And so, okay, right. For a dyslexic young lad who's got himself obviously way too deep, she explained it in such a way that it made perfect sense. She said, profit is not a bad word. You've got to make profit. Otherwise you'll never make any money. So you'll just be hand to mouth all the time. Okay, so she wrote me a cheque there and then for the full amount, and I did that job. And then they recommended another lady down the road, another big job, and we did that. And that went on for years, for all these big jobs, because no one wanted to take them on because they were too big, too risky. They couldn't figure out how to do them. And we did a job down in Howard Sea. I had to take my digger apart, get it on the side of the house, rebuild it in the back garden, then dig the back garden out. 470 tonnes of soil and rock we brought down the side of the house in track wheelbarrows, and went on for ages, and we built a massive retaining wall around. And it was quite a feat of engineering for then 21, probably 21 then. And then that customer turned around, yeah, no, we're not going to pay you. He's like, oh, why? He's like, we don't think we don't think you're charging us every month, and we don't think we've got that value of money for what you've charged. I was like, okay, well, that's fair. There were some big checks going in, or big invoices going in. I said, okay, well, you're an accountant. He's an accountant for BT or something. Yeah. So you're an accountant. I said, I'll bring you your file, all the receipts for all the materials here, plus all the labour and receipts from the lads. You go through it all, and then you tell me where you think we should be. I said, oh, okay. So we went through it all, came back the following day. I said, how'd you get on? He's like, well, it doesn't make sense. He's like, okay, and what way? And I knew which way it didn't make sense. You know, I'd underquoted the job, and we weren't making any money on it, which was fine, swings and roundabouts. He said, well, it was £17,500 under where you should be. Yeah. So can you pay that invoice of £17,500? He went, well, no. And I was like, all right, so why is that? And I'm going to keep going to and fro. And it was just at the point, this is 2008, 2009. So the phone's ringing, but not to book up work, it's to cancel work now. Recession's happening. People are cancelling all their work. So I'm getting a bit stressed and a bit worried. And this conversation with him was going nowhere. And I thought, and in my head I'm thinking, if I pull out now, I'm a few grand down, but it's better than me doing any more work and then doing this on the next invoice and me being £17,000 down. So the lads were kind of wandering around, and I think one of them said, should I knock up? No, don't knock up any more concrete. Don't take any more materials around the back. And I just said, just put that in the trailer, put that in the van. And I'm having this conversation at the time, I'm giving the lads instructions. Basically, the lads have twigged that I'm telling them to start packing up, put it all in the van, put whatever you can in the van, and all the materials and everything, all the tools, put them away. We'd already taken the digger away. And the mixer they chucked some blocks in the mixer, and it's cleaning the mixer up, so that's going on in the background, and it's banging around, and he's trying to talk and telling me that I've got it all wrong, and I'm saying, look, can you just pay the bill and then we can move on, we get this all finished for you. Basically, he was a clever man and realised that he'd built up a big enough bill that if I wanted to take it to court, I didn't have the money to take it to court. And I had a few customers do that, anything over 3,500 or whatever it was at the time, wasn't small claims. And then I'd need to spend about £8,000 on solicitors and everything else to get back £5,000 or whatever. And a few people did that to me. And then I just snapped at one point, and I grabbed the mixer, lifted it off its stand. It's still full of bricks and water splash around. Yanked the plug out of the wall, and I launched this mixer down the driveway into the trailer. At that point, he realised that maybe he should just close the door and not argue with me anymore. I was livid. And the lads were like, okay. And they just got rid of the van, and we just went. And the customer spent months and months and months trying to get someone to finish a job. What he didn't realise is I was one of 5 landscaping companies in Sussex, and we all knew each other. And he tried ringing, and they're like, "Who did it? Who started this?" "Oh, Tom did from Naked Garden." I'm like, "Oh, no, you're all right, then, mate," because they knew I did a good job, and they knew I wouldn't have left the job.
Reputation, right?
Reputation, and so that was the beginning of the end, unfortunately, for the Naked Gardener, because the work started cancelling. I had to get rid of the lads, sold the digger, sold motor trailers, and it went back to just me and the dog. And then eventually went bankrupt. I was 21. I spent all my money building the company up, put all my money into the company, buying better kit, better tools, and all sorts, advertising, and I had no money left. So I was robbing from people to pay Paul. I was trying to pay credit cards with credit card. It was just a mess. And I knew at some point, I always knew at some point it would catch up with me, because I wouldn't keep juggle with these finances. At some point, I've got to pay the finance off at some point. And at the time, girlfriend was getting a bit stressed of it all, and she was only young. She was 17, 18 at the time. It was all too much for her to deal with, and I was trying to involve her more with the business and trying to ask her, and she didn't know what to do or say, which was completely fair. At the time I thought it was unfair, but looking back on it, I was putting far too much pressure on her to try to dig me out of this hole. So she left, so I lost my girlfriend, and absolutely heartbroken. She was the love of my life, and I didn't know how I was going to carry on without her. First proper girlfriend, first love, so first time having my heart proper broken, and plus I was losing the business, something I built up for years. And it all just fell apart, and I was in a very dark place. All my mates didn't really know what to do with me, so we just go to the pub. So I spent many months drunk, which was fun at the time, but I wasn't fixing the problem.
How old were you then?
I was 22 then, so I brought my own flat by this point. I realised I never wanted to rent, so I managed to get a shared ownership flat and 100% mortgage, and got it. Luckily, I hadn't paid the mortgage a month, and there was some repossession orders are coming through, but there was nothing to repossess because the property prices would go down, as in negative equity. So I just didn't know where I was, upside down, left, right, and I was in a right mess. At one point I didn't leave the flat for 2 or 3 weeks, hardly ate anything. Ex-girlfriend was really worried about me, so she was, the little job she had, she was going to Sainsbury's, buying Sainsbury's basic food and coming around and making, filling my cupboards for me and making sure I was eating at least. As she could see, I was in a right mess. She didn't know how to deal with me or what to do. I was severely depressed, and looking back on it, I was in a real bad place. And then I remember getting a letter that I had to go to court, and it was when Heath had a courtroom there. So I don't remember the journey. I walked there because I couldn't afford the diesel in the van. Rocked up, said, "I'm Tom Morphew. I've got a hearing for something against Leeds Building Society." She said, "Okay, do you know what's in?" I had no idea. I was just told to come here. So, and then this lady came out of nowhere. She's like, "Are you Tom Morphew?" He's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh, come with me. We've got a couple of minutes." Right. Went into a room like this. She's like, "I'm going to be your sister." I was like, "Oh, I can't afford a sister. Sorry, love. I'm just going to blag this myself." She's like, No, it's a free service because you've got no money." I was like, "Oh, okay." She's like, "Are you working at the moment?" I was like, "I'm trying to do a few little jobs," and said, "Just basically, I do a job to put diesel in the van to get to the next job, and then hopefully they pay me the day because I can't afford the diesel to get home again afterwards." And she's all right, stop working. I was like, "Well, how am I going to try and pay some of the bills?" She's like, "We will pay the bills. We can. I'm going to help you. So the moment you stop work, we can help you. All the time you're trying to work, we can't help you." So I went to this courtroom, and I don't remember what was said or whatever. She spoke a lot of legal stuff, and I came out of it, and she said, "Right, you're not going to lose the flat." I thought, "Right, okay, cool." She said, "How?" She's like, "Just, we're going to pay the mortgage." So, "How are you paying? You don't even know me." It's like, No, we're going to sort your benefits out, and we'll get benefits that can pay your mortgage and your rent side of it. We can get some money so you can buy food. Just don't go to work, sort yourself out." And I remember just going home thinking, and a bit of a weight was lifted off my shoulders. And then another meeting with her, and she said, like, "You're going to have to go bankrupt." I was like, "I can't go bankrupt, I'm going to lose everything, blah, blah." And she said, "Look, you're 22 years old." I said, "You are not the only one in this boat." I said, so I was like, "Okay, whatever." I just said yes to everything. Again, saying yes to everything. And came down to Brighton, and I brought my mum with me, bless her. I went into the courtroom, and there was a queue to get in. I had my appointment at 16 minutes past 12. on the 16th of January. I went in there, and it was the builder centre took me there because I owed them money. And sat in this courtroom, and he said, "Is there any reason Mr. Morphew shouldn't make you bankrupt?" I was like, "No." I said, "I haven't got any money." He said, "Have you got any money you can pay towards this bill?" And it's a bill for £2,500. I said, "No, I've got £2.50. He said, "Okay." And I remember the time and the date, 16 minutes past 12, "Mr. Morphew, you are now bankrupt." And this other bloke who was in there from Bilson said, "Oh, we're claiming costs." And he's like, "Excuse me, sir." "Excuse me a minute, Tom." And he gave him an absolute bollock. And he's like, "I've just made this young lad bankrupt. He's not going to pay your costs. He has no money. Same as all the other people outside this room. No one's got any money. We're in recession. These poor lads built off a business, just gone." I said, "Get out of my room." He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And he backed off out. I said, "Tom, stay there a minute." And he had a chat with me. And he didn't need to do it. He said, "Look, you're 22 years old." He said, "You've done amazingly well to build up a business." He said, "This will be the best thing that's ever happened to you." He said, I said, "How?" So I've just lost everything. He said, "No, you've just lost all your debt." He said, "You haven't lost anything." He said, "You're still you. You can still go on and work now." He said, "We haven't got to pay any of the debts. Any debt that comes into you, you take to this address, or you send to this address." He said, "You've got to go to this place now, the official receiver down in Brighton." He said, "Go there, I think it's the following Tuesday or whatever." So, okay. So all was still in a bit of a daze. Borrowed some money from my mum to get the train down. Went to this place down in the lanes, which used to be where the official receivers was. Incredibly embarrassed and heartbroken about it all. So I went to this door and this bloke went, "Mate, no, it's a queue." I said, "Oh, right." And looked, and this queue went on for miles and miles and miles, and went round the block and zigzagged round. And these are all people who are all going to the official receivers because they've all gone bankrupt. And I joined that queue, and I was chatting to a bloke who's in front of me. In 6 houses, property abroad, hotels, cars, the wife's left him because he's got no money now. Taking the cars, taking the kids, lost all his house. He'd lost a lot more than I lost. And then chatted to the bloke behind me, and the girl behind him. And you think, I'm just 22 and I've just lost a little girl in the business. It's not that bad really. And I went forward and went in, signed the paperwork, and still people ring up and try and threaten, I'm going to take you to court. Like, apparently, mate, you can take me to court. I'm bankrupt. Send the bill to them. I had nothing for any official receiver to come and take. I had no money. I had no equipment. I'd sold most of the equipment to try and pay the bills. So, yeah, it was a pretty dark place. And I remember standing on a bridge at one point on the way home from the pub thinking, I'm better off not being here. I was so sad. I was absolute rock bottom. Anyway, cut a long story short, I didn't do that. And the girlfriend is now my wife. We've got 3 kids and a mortgage and 2 successful businesses because she came back. We were always meant to be together. So she came back and she helped me. We built it up and she supported me, and we sold that flat and made 15 grand on it and saved a bit more money and bought a house, and it all turned out all right in the end. But I was at that point, many of my friends have been at that point, and they're not here now. And that was so easy to do, and it could have been such a waste, and I would have not been able to help other people I help now and do what I'm doing now if I'd made that one wrong tiny decision at that wrong point. So there we are.
What a story. I mean, God, there's so many things I want to. I mean, just straight off the bat, what do you think? Like going back to that point on the bridge, what was it about? What was it at that point that stopped you from doing that? Do you think?
I couldn't let people down. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it to I couldn't do it to my mum. I couldn't do it to Anna, my now wife, even though we weren't together. I'd just be letting too many people down, and really struggle with that kind of, yes, it's all shit and it's all gone wrong. Could it get any worse? I couldn't really see it getting worse. I felt incredibly low, and I thought, well, if it can't get any worse, maybe it can only get better. And that was the realisation. I couldn't let people down. I couldn't upset my mum that much. I couldn't upset my girlfriend that much. I couldn't upset my dog that much. And that's what came down to. I had a little dog called Jenny. I couldn't let her down. I was always going to feed Jenny. I was going to take her on. And yeah, that dog was a mess. I mean, I cried more for that dog than I did any of my mates who committed suicide. I love that dog. And just thought it'd be a waste. There's got to be more to this, and I can only go forward now. Surely it can only get better. I'll hang around a bit longer and see if it gets better. And it did. And it got better and got easier. And there were still some massive struggles. And even when I did start to, when I first started Full Circle Farms, and I struggled with all of that and had a very dodgy kind of semi-business partner. He did the London stuff, I did the stuff on the farm. I didn't want to go back to London. This is after I was a project manager and things. And
because you went from 2000, so that happened around 2009, bankruptcy.
Yeah.
From then to 2018, you started Full. So,
So
that period, what did you do?
Many things. I was so I worked for a company. I did all sorts of jobs. Went back to graft and right, what can I do? I've got to get myself out of this hole. I've got to try and earn some money just to pay them. If I still paid the mortgage, they'd let me keep the place. So I rung around a few mates of mine, and I did drainage work for a company called Pipeways. Then they were brought out by Thames Water eventually or something. So I went around digging trenches, working in trenches, laying pipes, gas pipes, water pipes, and did that for a bit. Absolutely miserable job. I worked for a bloke called Trevor. I think his name is Trevor. The most boring man I've ever met in my life. Oh my God, that tree planting. You see those fields with those pipes and those sticks, and you think that looks like a laborious job. Trust me, it is a laborious job. And over the course of 4 weeks, we planted 4,000 or 5,000 trees. The bloke even drove in a boring way. You would be in fifth gear at 30 miles an hour and just plodding along. And I'd be rolling his backer for him and have a bit of backer, and it would take forever. And we drove miles to do these jobs. And all I did all day was walk along in a straight line, making a crack in the ground with a spade, putting this what's called a whip, a little tiny tree in there. So you do that for miles and miles and miles, and then come back miles and miles, and zigzag up and down these fields, dead straight lines. So you do all that, then you'd walk the same route, whacking in little pegs. So you'd have an armful of these little timber pegs, and you whack them in. Up and down, and then you go back and put those plastic tubes over and put the plastic and do the cable tie. God, wow. No amount of money would pay me to go and do that again, but it was paying me some money, so I did that for a bit, and then so basically I started another company, More For You, property maintenance and small building works, because no one's spending money on landscape anymore. No one's spending 30-40 grand landscaping the garden, but because they couldn't afford to move. So we're going to make do with the property they had. So I thought, well, I know how to lay a few bricks and I can do foundations. So I started doing a little porch, and then the porch became a single-story extension, and then that became a loft conversion. I ended up building houses. All the things my dad told me, don't ever go into a building trade. I ended up in it. Hated it. It was crap. So I did that and a bit of garden maintenance and started building things up, but my heart wasn't in it. I wasn't enjoying it. And like we said before we started recording all this, I wasn't enjoying the job. I didn't want to go to work. Covered in pug and dust and things, and so that went on for a bit. I did it for 2 or 3 years. I think 2 years. Eventually, I proposed to my girlfriend, and she said yes. Silly girl. And so now I've got a wedding to pay for. I was skint already. I lumped myself for a wedding to pay for. I thought, well, I can't do any more in the week or weekends. I was working weekends as well. So I've got to find another job that's going to pay me money. So I thought, what can I do at night? Stack shelves. That wasn't quite going to pay enough, so I became a doorman, of all things. Wow. So I started working in Brighton, and I went and did my door licence, and my first job was at the Pussycat strip club in Brighton, working with a bloke called Diggory. Hopefully, I don't know where he is these days. I hope he listens to this maybe, but he was a great bloke. Diggory Pokery Warden, his name was, and he was a old school doorman, a big old lump. And I rocked up one day, and I was long, skinny, still long. I was strong. I was starting to get a bit more timber on me by then. I think I sneezed when I was 21, and the skinny days went, and I ended up getting some love handles. And hang on a minute, I dreamt of putting on meat for years, and all of a sudden it's happening. And I rocked up the first day, stood at the door room, and he looked at me up and down, and I was like, "All right." He went, "You've never done this before?" He was like, "No." He was like, "You're a lover, not a fighter." I was like, "You're too bloody right." He was like, "Okay, I need to teach you a few things." And I said, "Yeah." And my brother-in-law was a policeman. And when he heard I was going to do doors, and he said the same thing, he's like, "You're a lover, you're not a fighter. What are you going to do as a door?" I was like, well, hopefully I can talk my way out of most of the trouble. So he taught me a few restraint manoeuvres and things I should look out for. And then Diggory taught me a few things and what to look out for. And to be honest, I didn't get into that many fights. I managed to chat my way out of most things. And I did that for on and off for 3-4 years. And between doing door works, I worked at the Pussycat Club. Next door was the all-male sauna. I ended up working there not in a professional capacity, but when they got in trouble, they came out. Tom, can you come and help? And I'd go in and get whoever out, and they'd sort me out a cup of coffee and a burger later or something. It was just helping them out. But I met so many interesting, amazing, and messed up people in that, and that was really kind of cemented where I went with my life, because I'd see people on their way into Brighton, and Brighton's an amazing place, and it's happy and lovely, and it's exciting, and it's all free loving. There is a very dark underbelly to Brighton, and I saw that, and it was scary and it's horrible. And I met some really horrible people who just were going out for the night to hurt people. They love fighting and hurting people, and they were vicious, nasty, horrible people, like pure evil. There was no good in them. They were horrible people, and I dealt with them a few times, and had knives pulled on me and bottles and a machete at one point, and dealt with it all from what my brother-in-law had taught me and what Diggory had taught me. My wife never knew any of this, what was happening, because she would have hated it. So I got very good at disarming people and disarming and neutralising them very quickly. I mean, I'm 6'4". I looked like I could be dangerous. I wasn't. But I had very good bear hugs. A lot of times I just squashed the life out and threw them out. But sometimes I would take the knife off people, or I would chat to people, and people who are off their face on all sorts of weird and wonderful drugs. They were very lonely, upset people who just wanted a moment to be out of this horrible nightmare they're in, and drugs gave them that. Half an hour high, and when they were coming down, they were deeply sad and everything else, and you got chatting to them, and Christ, I'd take drugs if I had the life they'd had, and hideous backgrounds and hideous things that happened to my life. And so whereas before I look at them and go, oh, they're just druggies or they're just alcoholics, all of a sudden I saw the other side of it. Like, Christ, if I had that life now, and I was experiencing what they're experiencing, and I'd had those things done to me when I was younger, I would want to get pissed every day. I'd want to drown it out. I'd want it to stop for just 10, 15 minutes, half an hour. And I want that high to last longer and longer, and that's why they get onto stronger and stronger drugs. Right? Yeah, it's where it comes from. They just want to escape from it for a bit. So eventually got married, amazing wedding, and managed to pay for it. Obviously, parents put in a bit, her parents put in a bit, scrimped and saved, done that, and then went to Thailand, had a 3-week honeymoon in Thailand, incredible. Things that 18-year-old could only have dreamt of and never thought was ever going to happen to me. And there I was in Thailand in the jungle with the love of my life, and still is, and still absolutely amazed by her. And we're in this jungle, and I think, Christ. And I remember that was a bit of a moment. We're in Chiang Mai, right north of Thailand. And we trekked into this jungle with a man called Jungle Joe. I'm not sure that was his real name. And he called me Mountain, because obviously they were about 4 foot tall, and I was this massive lump. He's like, "You like Mountain?" Yeah. Is that right, Joe? And that was fascinating, how much I could eat and how much I could drink and all sorts. And so always chatting with him whilst we were walking through the jungle. And my wife is 6 foot as well, so we were just quite basically like celebrities in this little village, and walked up through the jungle. We camped in the jungle. I couldn't sleep the first night. We had I don't know how I can describe it. It's basically a gone-off cement bag was my pillow. A mosquito net with holes in it I could put my head through. I was like, well, I was getting eaten alive. So wife was in another separate area, and she had a decent mosquito net. I gave her the decent pillow. I sat up all night pretty much and watched the sun go down, and then as the sun was coming up, I walked out into the jungle, went to the top of this kind of little hill, and just watched the sun come up over the jungle. And I thought, fuck me, how have I ended up here? And this amazing place, this amazing woman, and it's surrounded by these other amazing people I was with on this trek. And then I'm watching the sun come up over the Thai jungle, and it was just amazing. And I was like, right, all that stuff that's gone on is in the past now. We're only going forward, and we can only go forward, and it's only going to get better. And I'm not going to stop. And I didn't. And we carried on going, and we grafted and we worked hard, and got closed up Morphew, the building business, because I wasn't liking it, and I wanted a family. And I managed to convince the wife that we were going to have a family, because I'd set myself this bit of goal. And before I was 30, I wanted to be a dad. I didn't want to be an older dad. I wanted to be still young enough and things. And I think by the time I was 30 or 31, and little Freddie arrived, and that's when a whole load of different pressures came along. Like, oh shit, I've wanted to be a dad for a long time, and I absolutely adore kids and babies, and I still do now. I'd have hundreds of them if I could. And I was like, shit, right, I've got to provide. And then that's when I started feeling that pressure of, like all dads do. Like, no, I've got to provide. Shit, I've got to grow up. I mean, I was pretty grown up anyway. But now the pressure was on, so I took the work was drying up again. And I used to go and drive diggers on building sites when in the winter. Building sites are closed up because of really wet winter, so there's no digger work. So shit, I've got babies arriving, I need to... Christ, so I went and there's a job advertised for... Wife found it. And she used to apply for all the jobs because I could not bother to do forms, and it was basic schoolwork again. So she went, and she would spin them out all left, right, centre, and got an interview for a delivery driver for Tesco's. That's cool. I'll do that for the winter, and then gardening work I pick back up, and I'll go back to doing that. So I went for this interview. They asked me to go and sit in this other room, and they came in and was like, Mr. Morphew, coming back in, it's like, you came for the delivery driver job. Yeah, it's like, well, you can have that job. I said, but we'd like to offer you a deliveries manager job or team leader. I can't remember how they worded it. So I wouldn't be driving. I'd be in the office, and I'd be dealing with the drivers and getting their packs and making sure shopping's in the right vans. Like, yeah, okay, cool. I don't care. Paid a bit more money, what we do. Excellent. That came out and realised I just accepted my first employed job. I was like, oh, shit, I'm employed. Which was a bit of a worry for me. It shouldn't have been. It was a lot. That's what we needed at the time, the security. And I told the wife was over the moon. Oh, it's great. You haven't got to get up early. You got to do this. And, no, you can sell the van and sell the tools. I'm like, well, hang on a minute. I want to sell my tools. And I lasted 8 months. I hated the job. It was so boring. But that's where I saw the amount of food being thrown away. And I was backing up lorries and emptying these lorries into skips, because Fairshare at the time, we were sending the lorries to Fairshare, they were sending them back. It was like they were full up. They were tiny at the time. And I was backing these lorries up and going, right, lads, unload all of that, chuck it in the skip. So, Tesco's finest steaks and all this stuff wrapped in plastic, chucked in a skip. I think, well, steak's fine. I mean, it's wrapped in plastic, can't go off that much. It's pretty good for another 3 or 4 days. But no, sell by date had happened. So all this then biodegradable stuff wrapped in plastic was going to skip and going to landfill. That didn't make sense to me. So all of a sudden I'm building up all these things, and I started realising I'm building up all these annoyances. People being lonely, people being drunken drug addicts, fighting and things and all this, and then I'm meeting people who are in a job that they hate, and I'm seeing all this food waste, and Christ, is this what life is about? We just plod along wasting shit, ignoring people who need help, and we all just try and do a job to pay the bills. Christ. And I remember I was an absolutely terrible employee there. I mean, and the managers in Tesco's, you go on a Tesco's management program, and they think they're managers. They're not. I think to me, to be a manager, you've got to have some life experience, and you've got to be outside of this bubble. And it was a bubble, and they trained people within the bubble. And they knew how to manage within the bubble, but occasionally they came massively unstuck. And there was another bloke called Michael DaCosta, and I hated him at the time. He was a greasy-haired knobhead who thought he was the bee's knees, and he'd managed to get finance on a BMW, and I was just and dick. And we always clashed heads, and I couldn't give a shit if he followed me. And he was my boss. I'd enter in eating competitions. We'd start our own eating competitions. A subsidised CAF, so we'd eat like who could eat the biggest English breakfast. Obviously, I won most of those. I remember winning one day. Like, I ate the biggest breakfast, and then there was an Easter egg eating competition. I was like, Tom, go do that. I was like, got to waddle over, won that as well. So I was full of chocolate and fried goods, and went back to my desk. I was like, just needed a power nap. So I made a little bed up under the desk, and I had a kip. The boss come round and smiled. He was like, "Tom, what are you doing?" I was like, "Go away. I'm full of chocolate and fried food. I'm gonna have a nap." He's like, "They're all going to come back." And well, you can't. It's like, "Oh, it's happening. Go away." And and he didn't know what to do with me because I wasn't good. He didn't know how to manage that. And we clashed heads, and I always had a laugh, and I'd make up different silly things, and I'd sing songs over the tannoy to people and things. I just had to try and make it fun there because people are too depressed who are working. I'm just going to... And people, the drivers and things, I think actually really appreciate it. When I was on, they're like, "We're going to have a laugh today because Tom's going to fuck around and we're going to have a laugh." And we did. And one day there was, I think, a young lad who was a traveller, and he had three kids, I think, and he'd taken this job on to try and earn some money because I don't know if he wanted to get out of the travelling world, I don't know what it was, but he was grafting, and he was trying to earn some money. And the vans had this telemetrics thing on, and if you had these late braking and hard braking and hard steering, it would flag up, and eventually you would get told off. So he'd been told 2 or 3 times. It was bollocks because when you're driving that much, you are going to, looking for an address, you stop quick, oh, there it is, and that would be a late break, and he'd flag up, and it wasn't late, but I wasn't avoiding it wasn't going to be a crash, so I just saw the address at the last minute. So he called into this room, and this kid, he had had enough, and he just flipped out. And this Marco DaCosta didn't know what to do, and he'd come out kind of all panicked and sweaty, and he's like, "Oh, Tom, can you help me? This so-and-so, I've got his name." He says, "He's flipping out, wants me to punch him." I was like, "Maybe punch him then." So I can't hit people. I was like, "What do you want me to do about it?" It's like, "Oh, you're good with the drivers. Can you come in?" And I was like, "Fuck, stupid little idiot." So I went into this room, and this bloke was beside himself because this Michael bloke has said to him, like, "You're going to get fired." And he had 3 kids and the bills he was trying to pay, and that to a young traveller man who's trying to provide for his family is huge. And I'd worked with a traveller for years when I was doing my apprenticeship, so I understood a bit about the traveller world and how important it was for the husband to provide. And if he's going to come home and tell his wife he'd been sacked from a delivery job, it's like a huge kick in the nuts, this lad. And he was like, "He's going to sack me, what am I going to do? I'm going to just have a fucking fight, we'll sort this out." And I was like, "Mate, sit down. Michael, you sit down as well." I was like, "What's the problem?" And then Michael started reading the riot act. He was like, "Mike, shut up. You're an idiot." I said, "Mate, you're fine. You're not getting sacked. Go back to work." I sent him out. Calmed down, sent him out. And Michael's like, "I haven't finished." No. We're going to have a chat. Sent this young lad out. I was like, "What are you trying to achieve from this?" He's like, "Well, is this, and it's like, forget your little handbook." And I screwed up and threw it in the bin. You're dealing with people here. I said, "Do you know what his background is? Do you know who he is, what he's doing?" He's like, No, but he's got late breaking this and late breaking that." And I was like, "Has he always turned up for work on time?" "Yeah, never been late." "Has he always got back from his rounds of doing all the deliveries and got back on time?" "Yeah." I said, "What the fuck does it matter what he's done in between? He's got the job done." And you're trying
It's just understanding people, right?
Understanding people. And he was like, "Oh," and he came to see me towards the end of the day. He was just going home. He was like, "Mate, can I have a chat?" And I was like, "What the fuck do you want now?" He's like, "I'm sorry." He said, "What you did in there and how you dealt with that situation was incredible. So I had no idea what to do." And you said, "You just come in and sort it out." He said, "How do you do that?" It's like, "Because I was a doorman for years, mate, and I've worked with customers for years, and I've worked with old people for years. People, learn to deal with people, not that fucking little textbook you carry around and read out and to find out what to do." I said, "Forget it. Bring your head up and look at the bigger picture. This is a terrible job for a terrible company, and it's boring, mate. Make it fun. Give people a bit of reality and life, and be you." He said, "You're not Michael DaCosta, the Tesco's manager. You're Michael DaCosta, who's, got the love of his life parked out in the car park." I said, "Can you afford to pay?" He's like, "No, I can't." So why have you got it then? I said, "Stop trying to show off and be real." And I think he eventually got rid of the BMW and got something else. But wow. And I chat to him now occasionally. Really? He follows me on LinkedIn. We have a chat, and wow. I think from that day he changed, and I think he became quite a good manager. I don't know if he still works at Tesco, I can't remember, but he changed, and I think from that point on, you realise it wasn't about this textbook approach to everything. You've got to be worldly. You've got to understand people, and people are very hard to understand, and we're all different.
But it's understanding as an individual, leadership, whatever that looks like, or whatever business we're in, whatever industry we're in. And this is a clear example. You're talking about people working in Tesco's there. It's a clear example. It doesn't matter what you're doing. People will buy from people, and deal, and how you deal and treat people.
Yeah.
How you want to be treated, right?
Yeah.
If we all go along that line, we're creating a better world.
Wouldn't it be great? It'd be lovely, wouldn't it? Yeah.
But that gets lost so much.
This is Geo. Geo runs a scarf company. Geo doesn't see the need for telecoms. Everybody uses mobiles now. But can a mobile really be a business phone? Geo is having coffee with a client, Gabby. Well, actually, Geo prefers acacia leaf tea. But what happens when someone calls? It could be a big new deal. Surely it would be rude to take the call? But many people hate leaving messages. They may just call a competitor instead. What can Geo do? The answer is simple. Turn the mobile into a business phone. With the Go Giraffe app, Geo can quickly transfer the call. Or, before the meeting, Geo can simply use the app to divert calls. No more missed calls, lost deals, or unhappy customers. Turn your mobile into a business phone today. Go Giraffe.
I can't, mate. So many things listening to your incredible story. And we'll get on now to the full circle farms and stuff. But I want to. I'm trying to piece together from going through being bullied at school, and dyslexia. You talked about your parents potentially alcoholics. At 22, being bankrupt, losing everything, hitting rock bottom, being where you were in that headspace. All of that to 2018, starting a new business. How do you get yourself from that position? Because actually, you listen. The reason I talk so much about childhood, because so much of it sometimes, like I say, it almost shapes who we are today and where we are. And you listen to that, like your first thing in life. This is why school and education is so important. Why it infuriates me so much the way we teach people, because your first incident in school was actually, you're failing because you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that. So you're a failure. That's that's implanted in your head, and yet at 18 you've still gone out and gone, I'm going to start my own business. Yeah. And succeeded, or recession and what happened with the work. Do you know what I mean? But where does that come from? That, like, you've had that situation in school. There's two stages here for me that I really love to delve into. One, how do you come out of school and go, listen, I'm going to start my own business, and I'm going to, at 18, I'm going to start growing a business to what you did. Yeah. Talk to me about that. Then let's move forward to going through all of what you did with the bankruptcy and everything, and then from dormant to then starting, going into it again. I'm going to start my new business and creating what you've created now.
So, I think going back to this school bit, I was crap at school, crap at education. So I had to prove myself in a different way. So part of that was, every summer of days I'd work my arse off, and I'd rock back up in school on this amazing full suspension mountain bike, $2,500 worth of mountain bike. Mm. So I proved something there. I may not be the best in school, but you've all come back skinned. You got tans, you had lovely holidays. I've got a tan, and I've got an amazing bike, and I started downhill racing and things. So and my wife who highlights is like, what are you trying to prove? And I'm not better. Maybe it was. Maybe I was better.
Was that because of the?
I think because of the bullying and things. Yeah.
Like analysing, looking at it, going, because of the bullying, because you felt you needed to prove yourself, to have that external validation from people to go, look what I've achieved.
Yeah. It was that. I mean, there was a group of 3 or 4 kids in secondary school made my life a misery. They've all been done for drug possession and all sorts, and they're a right bloody mess now. Mm. But it's always, and they came from wealthy-ish families. They had the night trainers, and they had the PlayStations or whatever. They had the stuff. I brought the stuff myself. It wasn't from my parents. I mean, we had no money for any of that. I brought it myself. I wanted something, I had to go and graft and get it, and I did.
Such a valuable lesson.
And I proved that. I proved that I was better than them. And then forward for many years, I met them in pubs and things, and they were still. I mean, that's when I was running my business, and they still thought they could talk shit to me. And I never ever got into a fight at school. I got beaten up a lot, but I never wanted to lash back because I knew I was really bloody strong. I was probably nearly 6 foot then. I'd spent the whole summer lumping bricks up and down scaffolding. I mean, I was like an ox. Yeah. But I'd seen my dad hurt other people, and I didn't like seeing it. And I had a backhander myself and had the belt and things, and I didn't want to hurt people. And same as when I was a doorman, I didn't want to hurt them. And so I never wanted, because I thought if the red mist comes down, and it happened a couple of times, if the red mist come down, I'm really going to hurt these kids, and I don't want to hurt people. So I just took it. I was way strong enough to throw them over the nearest fence or through the nearest window, and I wanted to. But I didn't want to, because I didn't want to upset my mum. Because my mum was seeing enough violence and my dad and things, and I didn't want her to see her son doing the same thing. So I never lashed out. I never did any of that.
Did you have a good relationship? Have you got a good relationship with your dad now?
Yeah. Still? I mean, Dad's a bit broken now. He's smoked since he was 14. He's got COPD. You know, Mum's got heart problems, same as what I've got. And they worked hard, and my dad worked very, very hard, and he was an incredible bricklayer. But I'm not disappointed in them. I just think there was a lot of missed opportunities. They could have done so much better and been in such a better position they are now. And I love them to bits, and I wouldn't change them for the world, because however my childhood was and whatever happened, it shaped the person I am now. I don't regret. I mean, and they didn't really know anything better. And they didn't realise that they were doing anything wrong. But as you become a parent and look back, you're like, oh, Mum, fucking Dad, what were you thinking? That was not the right thing to be doing. But maybe back then it was just all they knew, and they plodded along, and that's what they did. And I have no malice towards them. I love them to bits, and I will help them as they get older and things. But it's just a lot of the problems they've got now, they've brought on by themselves, and that's
a different. As a parent yourself now, a completely different role model, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I would never hit my kids. I would never take the belt off. I would never go and find the perfect stick to beat my kid with. I don't need to. If big dad voice comes out, they're terrified and they do as they're told. Also, they have a lot more. I love my kids to bits, and they are growing into the most amazing little human beings. I mean, for example, Freddie, who's getting a bit bullied at school, and he's struggling with school, and he's dyslexic, and he's just going to get flashbacks of me at school. And there's this one little girl who's been giving him. I mean, Freddie's not little, bless him. He's quite a tall lad, and he plays rugby. He's strong. He's a thinker, and he analyses everything. Stan could be the opposite and give a shit. To go balls into life, and whatever happens, and he'll deal with it. But Freddie is so. I mean, they're both very caring and very considerate of other people. And this little girl kept bullying Fred, and every day he'd come home and be in tears. Oh, she says this, she said that, and I lost my patience a bit of it at one point. I said, Fred, right, enough. This is what you're going to do. And I wasn't condoning violence. I said, when she starts giving you a hard time, I said, just look her dead in the eye and say, boring, you're boring, you're boring, you're boring. And just keep repeating it until the point she gets fed up and gives up trying. I said, just keep doing that. And then Freddie started trying to analyse and talk to him. I said, boring, Freddie, boring, Freddie, boring. He's like, Dad, boring, boring. He's like, see? I said, you're fed up, you don't want to talk to me anymore. He's like, oh, yeah. I said, don't be nasty, just keep repeating it. So I went and picked him up from school the following day. I said, all right, Freddie's like, yeah. I said, all right, got in the car, we had a chat. And he's like, so what happened then, Fred? He's like, well, I started doing the boring thing, Dad. I said, oh, good. How'd it go? He's like, she got really upset, Dad, and I couldn't do it, and I gave her a cuddle. I said, you're going to be cross because I did it. No, I'm not cross with you, Fred. He's got
that in you. He's a lover, not a fighter, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, at that point, I was like, don't worry about it, Fred. You be the best you, mate. And I'd rather you were polite and over caring to the point you are now than you and try and make you into something that you're not, and I don't want you to be. I said, what? And I said to him, so you just be the best you. I said, be polite, be caring, and be considerate of other people. You can do anything in the world then. I said, be the best you. He said, but Dad, I'm not very good at this. I said, no, I don't care. Be the best you. If you're trying your hardest, that's great. What have Mum and Dad always said to you? Try your hardest. Keep trying.
That's all we want.
That's all we want. So we wanted to be happy. And they're really happy now, so I just bought them a PlayStation 5 and they're over the bloody moon. So, but
that is happiness for them.
That's what happens. But they're good. And then they will play it, and then they're going to play it non-stop now for a couple of days, and then they will get bored of it, and they want to go outside, same as they did with their Nintendo Switch. So, played it, and it was this new thing, and then like...
That's it. I wonder, as a thing as well, it'd be good to... Because I do want to delve in quickly to about setting up, obviously, with the farming side of stuff, and you've gone back in, like with horticulture, obviously been that passion of yours all through your life. Talk to me about that. So you've seen, I guess, from the Tesco's thing, my understanding is seeing the waste, seeing the problems that we've got there to go, you know what, there's got to be a solution to this, and you finding that solution.
I mean, I'm a deep thinker, same as Fred, that's where he gets it from. I'm constantly thinking. I don't switch off, and I can't switch off. And my wife tells me to switch, and I can't. And then it's part of being dyslexic and maybe on the spectrum. I don't know. She always tells me I'm on the spectrum. Maybe I am, but I don't care. It's my secret power, and I think outside the box. So all these little things.
Because even in your LinkedIn, which I loved when I was just looking up and doing some research, and it's got on all of your things, dyslexic thinker, and I was like, I fucking love that, because you're using, like you said, using that as, because how many people see it as, because I think even Richard Branson talks, he's dyslexic, right? And he talks about it as It's amazing to hear, and I loved looking at you, literally everything underneath skills, dyslexic thinker. I was like, I love that.
Which is, I think this year it went on there. There's a new movement this year, and I felt, oh yeah. And it's only been this year, maybe last year, maybe a little bit, but a lot this year. I realised that all the things I thought were holding me back were all the things that drove me forward. And being from school to Dorman to businesses to Tesco's and subconsciously all these little things are just sitting in that little business bank area at the back, and then worked in London. I thought, I've just had enough of this. And my wife is a good instigator. She gets it out of me sometimes, and she's my leveller. And I remember working in London, coming home broken and being physically sick, migraines all the time. I was on site at 5 a.m, didn't leave till 10. Got locked in site several times, the last one there. And I remember like winding the window on the way home and being sick out the window. I was driving down the M25, and that was my life for 8 months. I remember locking myself in the disabled toilet on site because I could not face going to another pointless bloody meeting to talk about pointless shit. And I was sick of it, and quite literally physically sick of it. And again, but I'd grown up a bit by then, and I couldn't just jack it in because I've got a family. I've got 2 babies now. So I couldn't just jack it in. I was more at stake. But my wife could see it was breaking me. She wanted to get to the weekend. She wanted to help at the weekend. No chance. I was on the sofa being sick. I had head under a pillow because I had a massive migraine and things, and heart palpitations and indigestion. I was drinking bottles of Gaviscon like it was milk. I mean, I get through 4 bottles a day, plus just dropping bloody Gaviscon pills all day because stomach was burning. It was all stress related. And then heart palpitations, and I was just an absolute mess, and losing sight in one eye because stress and building up fluid. And I was like, right, I put myself into this, what was going to be an early grave, quite literally. And she sat one day and said, why are you doing all this? And we were arguing and snapping because, I was worn out and everything else. And she said, why are you doing it all? I was like, because I've got to provide. It's like, well, how much money do we need? And we sat down and did that, and it was half of what I was earning. We had no holiday, and we'd have to get a more basic car, but we could pay the mortgage, do the shopping, and the kids could have school shoes. The basics of what we needed. We could do it. So what was I doing? So I want my Tommy back. I want my husband back. God, that got me. Shit. What I thought I was doing the right thing, and I wasn't doing the right thing. I was upsetting the marriage quite a lot, upsetting my wife, and the kids didn't see me. And all the things I thought I was trying to do the right thing, it was completely opposite. It was all the wrong thing. So I jacked it all in. And I remember coming back, so what are you going to do? I'll find a job, it's fine. And I got another couple of jobs, and I worked for Chelsea Gardener in central London, and I worked for Acre Landscapes in Brighton here. Great bloke, Nigel, and he was one of the blokes who said to me, and I left that job, and he gave me a lift home. And he said 7 people are just managers, just born to be managers. He said, you're one of them. He said, and you were never going to get that with me, because he was a manager, and we were on the verge of kind of fighting against each other, because I wanted control and wanted to call the shots, but he's the boss. Again, I'm a terrible employee, but he's the one who said, like, you're a manager and you're a good manager. He said, and you weren't going to get that manager role with us. He said, so what you're doing now is the right thing. I was going off, and then I was going to work with the Chelsea Gardener. He said, sounds like a great opportunity. He said, but he said, and you've done brilliant with us. And we parted really nicely, and it was like to have that little pat on the back. And he's brilliant at his job, and he's worked for some big companies and great. And he said, you're a manager. You were just always born to be a manager. You can't be anything else than that. He said, you're great with people. You're great with grafting and getting on with it. So I took that away with me, and I thought, well, I'm going to be a manager. I'm going to be the best manager. So I cut a long story short, jacked all in of the jobs, and wife did not want me to be self-employed, and I came back one day, and I'd had this meeting with someone I'd met many years ago, and they wanted me to work for him, and a bloke called Igor, who's a 28 stone, 6'4" gay Russian. I know these stories sound like they're made up, but it's the biggest, campest lump of a man I've ever met in my life. And he was recycling food waste, and he was doing it in London. And I helped him develop a system in London when I worked there as a grounds and gardens manager for the Westway Development Trust, another little job in between, and my first time in London. And we got this little system working. It was great. It would come in with like 10, 15 bins, and we put this food waste in this compost system, and I'd move it in with a digger, and I'd then developed this system of putting air into it, and it broke down and made really good compost, which I used on the rest of the estate. And that, again, got me thinking, that's addressing food waste, that little thing that happened at Tesco's, that was annoying. And this kind of sorts it out, and I could do this bigger, I reckon. And then I met people, young kids in London and things, who didn't know where the food comes from. And I thought, I then realised I'd taken for granted this childhood and life I'd had of being in the countryside. They'd never seen the countryside. So I started passing that knowledge on and saw their eyes like, I thought, well, that's quite cool. That's really easy to do. I'm just basically talking about my life. Again, I'm still doing it now. and people really want to listen to it. I thought, well, that's quite easy to do. So I thought, well, I'm going to start an inner city farm, and we're going to take food waste from the restaurants at this charity. We rent out these restaurants to people, businesses. We'll take all the food waste on it, be part of their rental agreement that they've got to recycle the food waste with the trust. I'll turn it into compost and create this inner city farm to then teach all these kids, move between Ladbroke Grove and Notting Hill, and loads and loads of money one side, complete skint the other side, which I found really interesting. And I thought, well, work with these kids and their parents and maybe the wealthier people as well, and they can pass on their knowledge. And we have this whole kind of pool of knowledge, and we'll create this farm, and we can sell all that produce back to the restaurants. It'd be a really cool story, and eventually it'd be self-funded, and it'd be cool. And we do loads of training schemes. Why we're going to do that. So I went to my boss, the CEOs, and they liked the idea. And they're like, okay, well, you go and work it out. So I started having meetings with Kensington Chelsea Council, and I'd have meetings with the charity, and meetings, and nothing was happening, and there's lots of talk, and I just got bored of it. They're never going to do this, and they still haven't. They never did do it. So I left, and I'm doing it myself. That thought stayed with me through other jobs. Left this other job in London. I was having heart palpitations, and said to my wife, so what makes you happy? I was like, gardening, growing food, talking to people. So well, find a job doing that. So I did find a job doing that. It just meant me being self-employed again. She's like, oh God, but she could. My wife's a very intelligent woman. She knew when to pick these arguments, and she knew that he's got his head down, and this is going to happen. It's either going to be an argument, or I'm going to try and.
I guess it's that belief in you as well. Like obviously seeing you doing what you achieved at such a young age, getting to where you got to, then coming back from that amazing amount of resilience, and obviously having her support all along the way for that. She's obviously loves you for one, but two, obviously believes in you as well and believes in you.
She does. I've put her through a lot of this. She's stood by me, and
me the same with my
and I've caused her untold amount of worry and panic, but she also understands me. She's the only one who does understand me, I think, and she knows how, and she's the one who says no one is as resilient as you are, and no one has got the drive you have, and I was like, see, no one can stop me. She's like, but maybe we should. Can't you just go and work on a job and have a pay? And she'd rather more than have a regular paycheck every month and not have the worry of, am I going to get paid from someone? But she also knows that I'm a terrible employee and I'm the only one who can really do this. And so she just kind of went, okay. And I came back and was like, right, I've had a meeting with Igor. She's like, who's Igor? I was like, this bloody huge gay Russian. So what? Who's? I met him at, and she's like, okay, what's the plan? I was like, well, I've chatted to the bloke who owns the farm that I started my apprenticeship on many years ago. We went to the yard there, my boss went to the yard, and I went back and saw him. I hadn't told my wife anything, so I went, had the meeting with Igor, went to the farm. I said, Tony said, I said, how you doing, mate? Had a cup of tea and a bit of bacca and had a chat. I said, I want to rent that field. And he's like, all right, what for? I was like, I'm going to grow veg in it. I was like, oh, okay. So there you are. And that was it. That was the start of it. No contract. Would never give me a bloody contract. I didn't tell him about the food waste side of things, because I knew that would kind of scare him off. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to bring in about 7 tons of food waste a month and recycle it there. And he'd be like, oh God, no, all this stinky food waste. But I just did it and then showed him one day and he was like, oh, that's quite good compost. And he used it on his garden. And so I came back to the wife. I said, I'm going to do this thing. She's like, what? I was like, Igor's going to collect food waste in London. He's going to bring it back to the farm. I'm going to turn it into compost. I'm going to put the compost onto a field and grow veg. She's like, well, we're not going to make enough money selling veg. She's like, no, we're not going to sell veg. And that was the original idea that Igor came back. He wanted me to grow the veg and run the farm, and he was going to go and sell the veg to the chefs. So no, we're not selling veg. He's like, why? I was like, because I'm not going to work for 3 or 4 months in the hope that it gets to harvest, and then hopefully I get enough money for it to pay. No, I'm not doing that. So, well, how are we going to do it? I was like, well, I'm going to turn it in food waste into compost. I'm going to put it onto a field, and I'm going to separate the field into individual plots. So, and then we're going to rent those plots back to the same chefs. Their entire own little tiny farm. I'm their farmer. They tell me what they want to grow. I grow it all, and then I harvest it. You pick it up, drop bins off to me. I'll give you the veg. You take it back to them. Happy days. And love the idea. It's all right. That's how we're going to do it. Completely selfish reasons for my part. I didn't want to be far away from my family anymore. I wanted to be back on a farm, which I knew, it was shaping up to be a bloody lovely job to work outside all day. And I knew if I got a good start and I got on top of the weed, it would be relatively easy. And it was. We got started. Unfortunately, it turned out that Igor was a bit of a crook. I was renting out plots of land that didn't exist. So I got rid of him. And he tried to take me to court. And I kept a lot of that from my wife because she was getting worried and panicked, and court and solicitor letters and things, and I got quite a few credit cards to pay for the solicitors, and because I knew deep down that what I'd started was something special, and it was that there was a lot of good I could do to it with it. So my idea was to build up enough chefs to pay the bills, and then I had a farm, and the farm was paid for. I could pay them all, so I could open that farm and help people. I used to build sensory gardens for specialist schools. Even if I got some school kids out here and they started learning about plants and things, and obviously they met Dave and PTSD and ex-military people. And I thought, and this was all bubbling on in the background. Again, this going into a little business area at the back of my head, and so I got rid of him. And she's like, "Oh, why don't I'm going to get a job." I was like, "No, I'm onto something. This is something special." And she's like, "Oh, we've heard all this before," and then they went back. And she wasn't upset about money. She was, and I now know it. I mean, at the time it was a few arguments. She wasn't upset that we weren't going to pay the bill. She was upset I was going to get ill again, and she's going to see me in that dark place. That's what it was. I didn't realise at the time, but that's what it was. She didn't want to see me broken again. And I said, no, look, what we're doing is amazing. And I said, all the chefs want to work directly with me. I said, look, these are all the emails. They've all come back to work directly with me. She's like, oh, okay. I was like, look, this is bloke Robin Gill. So he's all over the TV and everything. It's like, oh, okay. And then she started like, okay, maybe this is something cool. And she started to believe in it. I was all right. Now, as soon as the wife even showed a glimmer of believing it, was all right, full steam ahead. We're doing this.
Amazing.
And we created Full Circle Farms. And it was quite difficult. So I got rid of him, got myself in a lot of debt, paying for the solicitor fees, which were a £1,000 letter and everything else. I thought, shit, I've got to try and find a way out of this. And then this investor came along, and they said, look, we've been following what you're doing. What you're doing is incredible. We want to be part of it. We're doing food waste collections in London, and we were working with this other bloke who screwed you over. He screwed us over as well. I was like, okay. So I went to see him, and they had a really amazing, swanky office in London, in Kensington, which, unfortunately for them, was a red flag to me. I don't care if you've got a swanky office. Because the way I was going is I wanted to help people. And whatever money I earned was going to go back into the farm. As long as I paid the bills, any other money was going to go back into create this amazing fund to help more people. It wasn't about franchising. It wasn't about earning mega bucks and things. And that's what they were driven by. They were driven by money. I was driven by something completely different.
More of a purpose, right?
And more purpose. And they create spreadsheets. Like we can earn £1.3 million and then we can grow this model and we do this. And I was like, oh, I don't care. So we could put you on 80 grand a year. I don't care, mate. So this isn't for the money, which really flummoxed them. They didn't know what to do with that because this bloke who's got this amazing business idea, but it's not doing it for the money. What do you do with that? And I kept saying no to him. We'll give you 20 grand now, 30 grand here. And I'm not interested. I wanted to be with my family. I wanted to help people. I wanted to grow really amazing veg and never use any chemicals and things. And I was enjoying it. But I was skint, and I was really skint. And so eventually they got me because we can help you grow more care farms. We can do the bigger the farm, more people you can help. I was like, fuck, they got me because that's what I wanted, and they were going to help me fund that. So I took them on, and they were helping me, and we were getting more chefs, and it was all fine. And then I started seeing the cracks appearing. They were saying things to chefs which saying it came from me and it didn't, and I was like, I didn't like that. And then they weren't answering the phone, and I wanted to talk about certain things, and they didn't want to do that. And so it all started changing, and I didn't like it, so I started pushing back a bit, and then they pushed back a lot more. And then we kind of then settled down a bit, and they said, look, we're putting loads of money into the business, and it's been a bit rocking. We've clashed heads a few times, but that's business. And I was like, okay, yeah, that is business. What happens? You take these people on. You're going to have different points of view. We said that we still want to help you grow the farm. We still want to do the right thing. And all these chefs are on board. Said, but if we're going to put a lot more money in, we want you to come work directly with us because we want, you could just disappear all our money. I was like, I could do, I suppose. I've never seen this money, by the way. It's just supposedly being put into different things, and they were signing contracts on new farms, and they got me to go and find bigger farms and greenhouses and all sorts, and I did. And these were people that I've known for years, and so I went and convinced them to rent me a field, and it was going to be the next big farm. And I really liked this couple, and I still really like them. They absolutely hate me now because part of this big game plan of these investors was to muddy my waters where I worked and the connections I had, because they wanted to take over and they didn't want me to have a chance to be any competition to them. So I took this farm on with a mate of mine, and he rented me his farm. And we started moving loads and loads of compost in and things, and I was like, cool, this is all really good. I'd broken my leg at this point. I'd fallen off a roof and shattered my leg. So it was full of metal and pins and all sorts, and I was on Oromorph. Turns out I'm a really bad patient as well. I think I lasted 2 or 3 weeks in bed, and I put my bag in a bin bag, gaffer taped the top, and went to work. I had a big digger, and I sat in this and went across the road, got in the digger, and I worked and drunk Oromorph whilst driving the digger. Pretty quite dangerous, but I just couldn't sit still. I wanted to get on with this thing, and it felt like it was getting away from me because I was out of the picture and they had more control. I hated it, so I got back to it, and yeah, it turns out they were huge crooks. And I went to work directly with them. I got the first paycheck and then didn't get paid after that. I was like, you haven't paid me. And I was panicking. I had all these bills to pay. And they're like, yeah, no, we're calling it quits, Tom. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, yeah, we're terminating the contract. And then at that point, I was like, oh, I know what you've just done. How could I be so stupid? They got a contract on the farms, which was in their name. They'd taken all our employees and they went to work directly for them. They had all my equipment and they had all the contracts. And they spat me out. They thought they had everything. And during this time when this was bubbling up and starting to happen, my mate Dave, who I wanted to start the Garden Army with, who had by this point been diagnosed with a brain tumour, I was walking around the farm with him, and he didn't have a lot. Well, I thought he had longer to live, but he didn't. He was blind in one eye, having crushing headaches. He was in a bit of a state. And I hadn't really known Dave for that long, maybe a year and a half, something like that. But we had bonded and we got on, and we were both a couple of idiots, and so we got on quite well. And I was walking around the farm with him and having a chat. He was on my arm because he was blind and couldn't see where he was going a lot of the time. And so we were walking around, and I'm reeling out all this shit was going on with these investors and how they screwed me over, and I was in a real bad place. Nowhere near as bad as the place he was in. Yeah. And I got halfway around the farm and I stopped and I was like, shit, I'm sorry, Dave. He said, no, it's nice to hear other people's problems rather than my own sometimes. He said, but so you got to promise me one thing. I was like, what? He's like, look, so they can take all your tools. So tools can be replaced. So they can take all your employees. He said, you didn't like half of them anyway. I was like, true. He said, they can have with the contracts. I said, I've got a feeling it's all going to come back to you, mate. So one is like, because you're the only one with the drive and the ambition. He said, they can't stop you. I was like, and I was like, and then think back to being bankrupt, being bullied. I'm unstoppable. You can't stop me. I'm too fucking arrogant and too pig-headed and too much drive. There's just I now know I'm pretty much unstoppable. I won't give up. And he's like, you promised me, he said, you will never give up and you will never give in, which is the motto we have for the Garden Army. So I promised him, and I think it's a couple of months after his funeral, we started the Garden Army. And we never give up and we never give in, and we keep going forward. And we don't go back, we can only go forward, and that's where we are now. We've created this amazing farm. The investors went bankrupt because they were committing fraud and all sorts, and they tried to grow, and they had people they were paying. Everyone was on furlough, but they were making them all work, and pension contributions never made it to the pension contribution kitty. That ended up in their pocket, and I got out of it, and a lot of people stayed with them, believing them, and even some of the chefs believed them over me. And then when it then the shit hit the fan, it all went wrong. They all came creeping, oh, Tom, how you doing? I'm doing fine. What do you want? Oh, do you want to come back and run if you have a plot with you? No. See you later. You only get one chance, and if you don't believe me and you believe them, just got a few quid, no, not a chance. And then that's when the partnership with Sodexo and things was happening. I'd experienced working with lots of individual famous chefs. It was very good for the ego, but Christ, it's hard work. And they've got bigger egos than me. And I thought, and it got to, I made this connection with a bloke called Ben Dutson. So going back to when I was working with Igor was supposed to be collecting the food waste from the Chelsea Flower Show, and he hadn't. And the guy's phone kept ringing, and I answered, and the bloke said, mate, my name's Ben. I said, are you collecting the food waste? I was like, no, that's Igor's business. That's what he does. I just grow the food. He's like, I've got your food. He's like, yeah, whatever you've got cooking there came from my farm. He's like, oh, amazing. He said, but all the bins are full up. We can't get any. We're mounting up with food waste. We've got nowhere to put it. We've got it in bags and all sorts everywhere. So we've got rats and shit. They can't be happening there. And I wanted to say, okay, it's not my job. But that little business brain at the back was going, actually, that's probably quite a big contract. And that money supposedly filters down to me eventually. So maybe we don't want to lose this contract. So I was like, okay, I'll come up and sort it out. Empty my van, drive up to London. I don't know how we got it all organised. Got into Chelsea Flower Show with my van, load the van up, took it back, unload it. Did that 2 or 3 times, 2 or 3 trips. And on the third trip, this bloke come out of the tent. He said, "Oh, mate, are you Tom?" I was like, "Yeah." I said, "You're Ben." I was like, "I know you." I went, "You're Joe Morphew's brother, aren't you?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "I'm Tom Morphew." He's like, "Man, we do know each other." I was like, "Did I kick you out of my shed for smoking weed once?" And he's like, "Yeah. You chased us all out the garden." I was like, "I remember." And he knew my brother quite well. I said, "Ben does." Yeah, rings a bell. And we got chatting. And he's like, "So what's going on then? What are you doing?" I was like, "Well, I grow all the..." I told him the business model. He's like, "Man, that's incredible. Well, how can I get involved?" And it's like, "Well, you're already involved with Eagles." No. How can I get involved with you and what you're doing? So we got chatting, and I didn't know what Sodexo was and who he worked for. I knew Raymond Blanc was there, and I'd seen him on TV, quite a cool bloke. I thought, okay. So we got chatting, and I said, and eventually a few years went on, and we carried on kind of chatting a bit, and he said, if the opportunity ever comes up, I'd love to see if we can work together. And then this new farm came up, and we took it on. And in the first day or two of supposed to getting the keys or sign the contract, I gave him a call and said, "Look, I've got a farm, mate, and I'm going to do this bigger and better." I said, "But there's another side that I want to do as well. It's going to be a care farm." I said, "I'll grow all the veg you want." I said, "But I can't promise any of that veg. And the main thing about the farm is going to be growing people." I said, "You're welcome to the byproduct." He said, "What do you mean the byproduct?" I said, "The veg is a byproduct of what we're doing on the farm." He's like, "Cool, I'm in for it." He came down, walked around the farm. He explained that getting in with Sodexo was going to be quite hard. So we came up with this plan to get veg into the kitchens he was working at, and start the process. And we did, and he managed to pay me. I can't remember how he managed to pay me. We did. And then he got to the point where we're now going to launch it into Sodexo properly. And they were like, and there's loads of kickback. They're like, "I'm not sure it's going to work." I was like, "Well, it's actually been working fine for the last year." Like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, Tom's been supplying me." And he probably took a massive bollocking for it. Yeah. He said, "But what Tom's doing is amazing." And then I understood the kind of corporate world and how easy I'd made it for him to tick all these boxes. And I got sent an email to on board as a vendor to be a full-blown supplier of Sodexo. First or second page, I rang up Ben. I was like, "Ben, mate, they're asking me what scanning machines I use on the farm to check the veg and what metal detectors and things." He's like, "Oh yeah." I said, "I'd pull it out of the ground, look at it, and throw it in a box, mate." He's like, "Yeah, okay." So we had a big meeting, him, me, the health and safety man, and it all got changed and adapted. And I got my vendor now. It took a year and a half, and we're still working together at that point. Wow. Eventually got this vendor number. That little number is the key to all of it. And away we went. So they started renting their first plot. Virgin come on board, and they're having veg from that plot. And Chelsea, Royal Ascot, and I started going and doing these meetings and talks. And then I remember one day I was chatting to Ben. I was like, "How big is Sodexo?" And he's like, "It's like the 7th largest employer in the world or something." I was like, "Oh fuck!" He's like, "They're massive, mate." I had no idea.
Wow.
And
naivety sometimes our greatest strength.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And now that was just Sodexo Live, and they're great. Ben, Emmeline, they were my doormen. So so lots of people in Sodexo wanted me to have a plot with me and work with me, and they were there to protect me from the bigger monster that is Sodexo. Yeah. And if you didn't meet their criteria, so they knew how I operated, and they knew the wording on the contract, and they understood it. So they were trying to educate people on how it works. And if they didn't think that department were ready, they didn't get in. No. And they basically protected me from a load of ball ache. And then now it's been opened up, and now we work with a whole of Sodexo, from Sodexo Education, Sodexo Prestige, 7-Eleven, 1711 at Ascot. And we're doing all sorts of weird and wonderful things. And we've got Virgin on board, Emirates on board, all these cool things we're doing. And I've been up to Scotland doing talks for bids and things, and I've been involved in some massive meetings, and think, Christ, I'm well over my head here. But
it's become bigger than you dreamt it would be initially.
Yeah, way bigger. the other massive driving force behind it all was I wanted to do this care farm thing. And it was the very early days of green prescribing. And I can't remember who I managed to talk to, but I basically an email got round to someone, a lady called Julie, who was a social prescriber for a couple of doctor surgeries, and she's like, "I'm really interested in what you're doing. Can I come up and bring a couple of girls and have a chat?" So they came up and we had a very serious meeting in the meeting room, which was about 4 panes of glass left in the greenhouse and some plastic chairs I pulled out of a hedge. And I made a cup of coffee on this gilly stove, which I was putting sticks into as a little fire, and that's where it started. I said, look, and they're all lovely human beings, and they are. And I said, look, this is the idea. And they're like, that would be so many people I know would benefit from this, and that was the start of it. Now nearly every doctor's surgery has 2 social prescribers. There was 2 for most of Sussex, and there's 2 for every doctor, and at least 4 people a month are being referred to come to our farm by local doctors. To the point we got the local doctors to come out and say, like, do you know what you're like? No, all the feedback we get is that people love it and they're really getting better from it. I said, well, you need to come to the farm and experience it.
Love that.
So we organised this day, and all the doctors and social workers came out, and the doctors, I mean, I'm admiration for them. They're really clever people, constantly, a lot of pressure on their shoulders. And they're all on there, still doing emails whilst listening to me doing a talk and a tour of the farm. And we got all the way around, and they started paying more and more attention because, that's quite interesting, and that's quite cool. And I didn't know that happened, and I didn't know that was used on our veg. And we got round to, on the way back, I stopped at this meadow, which we now rent, and the grass is about 2-3 foot tall. I was right, we're going to stop here. So we're going to do something a bit weird. And I was like, phones away. Shit, and a naughty school kid, put the phones away. Is that right? We're going to stay in silence now. I said, I want you to wander out into this meadow, find a space 2 or 3 metres away from each other in silence. And I want you to lay down in the grass. And when you hear the bell ring, when you get up, stay in silence and come back to this point, and we're going to have a chat. Right, I was like, I know it sounds a bit hippie and weird and things, and I don't wear harem pants and I don't braid my hair. But yes, this is a bit of a holistic approach, but this is going to open your eyes to what we're actually doing here. So I sent them off. I rung this bell after 15 minutes, I think, went out, and they're gradually getting up out of the grass. It's like big stretches, and they smile at each other and go, I'm not there to talk. And it was all quite cool. And they came back, and I got them all standing around for me. I said, keep quiet. And I went and said, right, you, tell me how you feel. She said, don't know really. And I was like, okay, you tell me. And I went around. Eventually, one person went, I feel like we're on a spa weekend. So I feel really relaxed and I feel quite chilled out. And then other people were like, I feel the same. And I know, I do. I feel the same. And I was like, all right. I said, when was the last time you felt like that? Like, truly like you feel now? And I said, okay, what is from way? So when was the last time you laid on your back and watched the clouds go by, listened to the crickets and the birds and things? And one person said, I haven't done that since I was about 5 years old. And I was like, there, that's it. Now think, when was the last time you felt completely free and carefree and you had all the time in the world and you didn't care about anything about, apart from watching those clouds and watching a cricket or listening to birds? That was the last time you felt like that. I said, you've completely forgotten how to feel like that. And they're like, oh, fuck yeah. And so you can have all the drugs in the world and all the therapy in the world. You just lay in the grass for 15 minutes and you feel like that. Imagine a whole day of working on the farm. And they're like, sold, done. They got it straight away.
There's so many things there. Like, you look back, especially as so many people be listening, business owners and all sorts of entrepreneurs. Like you mentioned it earlier, don't switch off. I'm similar. We're constantly on it. But knowing that you've created a space where you work in on a daily basis, where you're in touch with nature. Like for me, swimming in the sea is my thing. I love that. Just something about just trying to carve out in a day a point where we actually stop. And we just stop.
I think it's important not to overanalyze that. Like swimming in the sea. Why the hell would you go to a cold sea and do it? I mean, I used to surf years ago, so I do get that bit. But don't analyse it too much, just do it. Whatever it is. If it's
exactly,
laying under a tree, or it's going into the woods, or it's taking a dog for a walk and just sitting in the long grass for a bit, or it's going to swim in the sea or river or whatever is your thing, or makes you happy, or makes you, just chill out.
Exactly,
just do it. Don't worry about going, is that forest bathing? Or lay under a tree.
You haven't got
Just
to
do
label it.
Don't label it. Just do it. Whatever your thing is.
I love that.
If it's going in the gym and pumping iron for about half an hour, gosh, I can't think of anything worse.
Yeah.
But at that age of my life, I've got to stop maybe doing that. But don't overanalyze that bit.
Yeah.
You overanalyze everything else. That's life, and we know we analyze things, we work things out. Whatever that point is that you can switch off and just leave that. Leave it the way it is.
Yeah.
Because it's important. And just leave that if it's swimming in the sea, laying in the grass. Do it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Mate, listen, we're coming towards the end, and there's the last couple of bits I want to finish up with. Just before we go into the with Define Success, I want to just touch on briefly that obviously the point with you started the Garden Army, like you said, a few weeks after the day. How does, like, you only known him for a short period of time, like you said, but seeing someone then pass away like that from a brain tumour impact you at that point and give you that drive to go and start the Garden Army? Talk to me a little just about that a bit.
I think obviously seeing his demise and he was a really fit, strong fella. I mean, he was an ex-military policeman, and he'd always kept himself really fit, and he was a bit of a ladies' man, and he was a real character, and everyone loved him because he was just this bloody loony. And he didn't take life seriously. He just bimbled along and did his thing, and that's what and that's, I think, where we bonded, because I'm also a bimbling idiot and make silly, rude jokes, and some of them inappropriate. But I don't care, and he didn't care. And he was the life and soul of everything everywhere he went, and he was great. And he had a lovely little family, a lovely wife, and a beautiful young daughter, and his son Noah. His son Noah is confined to a wheelchair. I think he had a stroke or something, or a seizure or something, when he was very, very young, and it damaged his brain. And I don't know if he's verbal, I can't remember now, but and that didn't stop him. And he instilled that in his son as well. Like, he got him into scouts and things. There's no reason why he can't go to scouts. Yes, he's in a wheelchair. He's going to scouts. That's what he wants to do. He's doing it. And he had that drive and that determination. There was no stopping him. Even when he got that diagnosis, he was like, "Well, bollocks to that, I'm going to fight it." The reality was it was terminal. It was no fight. There was no stopping it. But he never let on to anyone that he was ever going to stop it. Everyone went along with it. I didn't. I spoke to him and was like, this is terminal day. He was like, yeah, no one else knows that. So they do. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to say it though. I was like, yeah, but you're going to cark it soon, mate. He's like, that's why I like talking to you. And we spoke about his funeral. And we spoke about death. And I never shied away from any of it. I don't know why. I've got an approach to death and things. I don't know what it is, but we chatted about him dying. I said, do you find this weird? I said, we're sitting here talking about you snuffing it soon. And he's like, yeah, but so we're all going to snuff it. I said, so do you? But you've got this amazing opportunity. You can get it all organised before you snuff it. Like, some people would go and then didn't have time to sort anything out. You're going to sort it all out. And he's like, yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it? I was like, yeah, it is.
It's realising, isn't it? And there's that realisation, isn't there, in life? Actually, because we go through life, we bumble through life, and we worry about things and all the things that come in. And actually, when you strip things back, life is finite. We are going to die. Whatever way we look at it.
You're not getting around it.
We're
going to pay taxes, you're going to die. There's two guarantees.
Happen, right? Exactly that. It's going to happen. And once that you actually are comfortable talking about it and you're able to deal with it, again, back to that thing, listeners or people to think, we're going to go out and live every life like it's every day like it's your last. But do grab opportunities. Do what you've done and say, yes, you don't know. Because we don't know how long we're going to be on.
No. Set yourself goals, I think. Give yourself a goal. Work towards it. Get to that goal. Set yourself another one.
Yeah.
I mean,
just keep going.
Just keep going, because you don't know what point that you're going to get stopped on the way to that goal. But if you've got a goal, at least you're working towards something. It doesn't mean massive, but if you want to, I never wanted to rent. I wanted to buy my own flat. Tick, done. Goal done. I want to run, building up my own business. Tick, done. Failing that business wasn't one of the ticks, but I built up another one, and I wanted to create a care farm, and I wanted to find a way. All of this is completely selfish. I didn't want a proper job anymore. I've wanted to find a job that I could get.
How many businesses have started like that?
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
I love that.
I wanted to feel fulfilled. I wanted to feel like I was making a difference. And I'm now, only the last few months, really started to feel that I am making a difference and I am doing something right. And it feels good, man. It feels bloody brilliant. And now I'm starting to earn money from it as well. And so I can, we went on holiday in February, and we might go on another holiday. Christ, 2 holidays a year, crazy. I don't know how I'm going to do that as a farmer, but and all of a sudden, people are paying me to talk. This dyslexic gardener who was bullied and everything, I get paid to talk about shit I know. It's mental.
Because your story is unbelievable, and you're listening to you talk and having the honour and the privilege of sitting opposite you today and listening to your whole story, and you go, I implore anyone who sat and will listen to this and not just go, wow, fucking hell. And how they people in dark spaces to go, I can choose another path.
Yeah,
I can keep going.
That's what I want.
I cannot give up.
Yeah.
I don't have to give up, because life is an opportunity, right? Yeah, whatever way we look at it, and the fact that we do get up every day and we are still breathing gives us hope. That when you are in that dark space, sometimes all we need is that little bit of hope, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Instagram's kind of good for that. I mean, there's lots of these brilliant little videos with melodic music and things, and you go, oh, that's quite cool.
Yeah,
you put a bit of a reality with it as well. If anyone listens to this and they're in a real dark space and they're fucking fed up and they want to give up, if one person listens and goes, oh, actually, he's right. It can't get any worse. It can only get better. I'm worth it. I think what's the bloke who does the astrology stuff? Brian Cox or whatever. Yeah. He does he spoke a little bit, and he does this one line where he talks about the probability of us being here. Yeah. You've heard it, right? It's so, for that little tiny wiggly worm to find its way to that egg, and for that to happen, for us to survive childhood, to be here, to be adults, to have our own family, or whatever we're doing, for us to be here, we're so finite. Yeah. Don't bloody waste it. Whatever's going on in your life, and there's some fucking hideous things that happen to people, way worse than anything that's happened to me, and they come back from it, and just the moment you come back from it, you're unstoppable, because you are so powerful and you have that determination. You've managed to get away from whatever it was. All of a sudden, go with that, because that little bit of power you've just given yourself, it means you can never stop, and you'll never be stopped.
Unstoppable Farmer Tom. That is the title of this one, mate. Well, look, we're going to finish up. We've got our always got the tagline, helping the world to see success differently. I've asked nearly 120 people now what's your definition of success?
Oh, that's a big one, isn't it? What is it? I mean, I'm probably still trying to find it myself, but I think I have found it. Is be compassionate, be helpful, be polite, and just be there for other people, because eventually that will pay off. Just be kind. Stop being an arsehole. Be kind. One of the rules of the farm. We have 3 rules on the farm, which sounds a bit weird. The first rule is you can turn up and you can do as much as you want to do. Second rule is there's no talk of politics or religion, which starts an argument. Third rule is, and I think is the key to success, don't be a dick. Sweet, don't be a dick.
Love it. Mate, that's golden. That is golden. Well, look, we do. I host top table events where we get 10 of our partners together and we use our conversation cards and a lot of the questions that we sometimes ask on it. And I always pick a couple out just to sort of finish up with. So it is one of the questions we got asked the other day is, who is the person you'd most like to say sorry to but haven't?
Oh, God. I don't think I've ever said sorry enough to my wife for what I put her through. I think sorry to her.
Really?
Yeah.
She's been there every step of the way and still believes in you, like you said.
And hasn't given up.
Love that. If you're on your deathbed,
Yeah.
You can leave one life lesson. What would that be?
Don't be a dick. That's it.
The end.
The end. Done. Yeah. Don't worry about money. Don't worry about anything. Just don't be a dick. Just be nice. It's so easy to do. And it makes such a big difference to everyone you come across in your life. Just be nice. If it's that person on the street, if it's a big investor, whatever, just be nice, because if they're horrible, you'll kill them with kindness. If they're down the luck, you're gonna give them hope just by being nice to them. Just don't be a dick.
Mate, listen, from getting to meet you only recently, and then hearing your brilliant talk on the stage, to chatting with you after, and now finally having the privilege to have you here today, I'm so grateful for your time. It's been a brilliant episode, brilliant conversation. Wow, thank you for sharing such an inspiring story.
Thank you, mate.
And listen, I know for a fact that there's going to be people listening that it will help, and because I know it's helped me and it's inspired me. So, mate, I wish you all the best with everything you continue to do, because it's game changing, and what a legend. So, mate, thanks so much for your time.
All right, thanks very much.
And that, as they say, is a wrap.